Lord of Mysteries, Survival from the Secret Doll Chapter 331 to 343. Chapter 331, 330 Derek Berg. In Silver City, Hall of Corpses. When Derek Berg was brought here, his mind was muddled, almost unable to think. The Hall of Corpses in Silver City was different from other places. In this realm dominated by darkness, only the occasional flashes of lightning proved the existence of the blue sky, which was only recorded in books. There were almost no lightless areas in Silver City, as monsters would occasionally appear in dark environments. In the past, Silver City relied solely on lit lamps for illumination, but the six-person council found an efficient, clean, and pollution-free energy source in a certain area. The substance known as Sunwell ore then became widespread, bringing an almost lightless environment to Silver City. But this place was special. Aside from the six-person council and the Twin Towers where public buildings were located, the Hall of Corpses in Silver City was the most unique and the place everyone least wanted to visit. It was completely different from the spacious, bright, and sparkling world within Silver City. It was slightly darker, and it was said to have been blessed by Gregory. This dimness, not too bright, would not cause monsters to appear, but simply walking into it made one feel a coldness that continuously eroded the body from within. In the unusually dim Hall of Corpses, Derek Berg, brought here and seeing the two coffins in the hall, stammered a few times and trembling asked the navigator who had stopped in front of him. "This is your father and your mother." During this exploration of a certain ancient building involving a high-sequence Beander in the darkness of Silver City, unfortunately suffered from an incurable curse. Their lives are also coming to an end. The guiding elder wore a black robe symbolizing death. Perhaps because they often moved among the dead, in this bright Silver City, they appeared excessively lonely and gloomy, and not many people were willing to befriend them. Such people in Silver City had a title, Navigator, meaning an envoy who guides everyone to the kingdom of death. When Derek Berg opened his door and saw that the person standing outside was the Death Navigator, who was ranked first on Silver City's list of people least desired to see or befriend, his mind buzzed. In Silver City, there was a saying that the children of Silver City did not fear death or challenges, but please pray desperately not to encounter a navigator standing at your doorstep when you are alone. Because that might mean that all your relatives have either turned into monsters and been dealt with, or are about to die, leaving only you, alone, to personally kill those who are about to turn into monsters. This saying echoed abruptly in Derek Berg's mind when he saw the navigator in front of him. Derek Berg's father and mother had left Silver City 2 days ago to explore a certain area deep in the darkness, said to be related to the all-knowing and all-powerful Lord. Only he was left at home. So, that means, facing a possibility he dared not even think about, Derek Berg, numbly following the navigator, entered a building he was familiar with, but which he and everyone else strongly resisted. As he entered the building, where the lights were noticeably dimmer and symbols representing peace and death gradually appeared engraved on the walls, he saw a person holding a knife, trembling as he walked out of the building, face covered in snot and tears, looking on the verge of collapse, shakily leaning against the wall as he passed by. That was a young man whose mental defenses were almost shattered. Derek Berg's currently sluggish mind slowly turned. He recognized the person who had just walked past him. It was a childhood playmate of his. Or rather, in this place, for children born in Silver City, people of similar age mostly knew each other, all children were playmates to one another. And Derek Berg happened to know that the person who had just walked past him, with tears and snot covering his entire face, had parents who also participated in this exploration mission to that place. That is to say, they also. Seeing the two coffins, and seeing that the two people inside both had pale faces, both had weak breaths, and were clearly not long for this world, Derek Berg stared blankly at the dagger in his hand, which the navigator had just placed there. Looking at the dagger, facing a truth he was unwilling to admit in his heart, just like his former playmate he had just seen, tears gushed out of Derek Berg's eyes, against his will. He trembled all over, and with an unsteady grip, the dagger fell to the ground, emitting a crisp sound. "No, don't." Derek Berg, the navigator, said in a hoarse voice, like a crow foretelling death, "You should know the rules of Silver City. They will turn into difficult to clean monsters after death, and no method can reverse it, unless someone with the same bloodline personally ends their lives. Your father and mother are heroes, the pride of Silver City. Derek Berg, do you want them to become monsters, cause harm, and then be killed by us?" Derek Berg trembled, his whole body shaking. The navigator silently squatted down, picked up the dagger from the ground, and handed it back to Derek. He said in a hoarse voice, "Do it, Derek. Your father and your mother, I think their last wish must be this." Derek Berg closed his eyes. He looked at his father and mother in the coffin, his teeth chattering, and slowly raised the dagger in his hand. "I don't understand." In the shadows, a tall and sturdy figure with graying hair, wearing a linen shirt, looked at another figure beside him, who was also silently watching. "Why did you choose Derek? There should be other suitable people in Silver City. You are clearly more concerned about him than about others, but why specifically Derek's parents?" Gale Bray glanced at the current chief of the six-person council beside him. He could explain this question, but he couldn't say it. This would bring the contamination of fate. All questions about the future, even simple inquiries, would still lead to this result. The Supreme Being's authority deeply restricted everyone who tried to reveal the future. Except for that one, everyone, in any way, with any intention of trying to reveal the trajectory of the future, would suffer deep contamination from fate in the future, becoming marionettes suspended above the long river of destiny. Colin Iliad looked at the silent man, and there was another long silence. He asked again, "Is that what that one thought?" Gale Bray's gaze swept over the two corpses, whose chests had been pierced and whose life force was rapidly disappearing. He recalled what Nicola had told him earlier. Let the current chief organize an exploration mission. Nicola said casually, "Let this exploration team go here. This should be suitable enough." Then, this team found the tomb where one of the avatars of the ancient sun god's young son, the blasphemer Amon, was buried. They encountered the most terrifying deception. Everyone forgot their identity as living beings, becoming walking corpses, and suffered an uncontrollable fatal curse. If it weren't for the subsequent exploration team arriving in time before the sunwell lamps burned out, their bodies would have remained forever around that tomb, accompanied by the monsters in the darkness. In this exploration, the first team was completely wiped out, and the second team also suffered heavy casualties, and all of this was related to Nicholas Flamel, this sequence 1, the new blasphemer, who was thinking about how to complete Tang's mission. No one could stop it, no one dared to stop it. Even if the six-person council realized something was wrong, they couldn't, or rather, didn't dare to, confront the existence that seemed to have been quietly staying underground, with one of Silver City's divine sealed artifacts, Gift of the Earth. Because of the existence of the Sunwell ore, because the other party was a great existence capable of instantly flattening Silver City. Yes. Gale Bray exhaled and said in a deep voice, "No need to particularly monitor Derek Berg. Do as you see fit, Iliad." As a chess piece placed in Silver City by Tang, Gale Bray had actually been under the surveillance of the six-person council for the past 1,000 years. He was a secret jointly guarded by the members of the six-person council, because he was their most likely choice to return to that bright world and escape the curse during those more than 1,000 years. Even though they didn't trust him and regarded him as an enemy, they still had to listen to this monster, who had lived for over 1,000 years and already transcended the category of human on certain matters. A former chief of the six-person council once tried to eliminate Gale Bray, this unstable factor. He still wanders around Silver City to this day, having forgotten everything, becoming a fateless one in this world, forever excluded from time, constantly wandering. As for Derek Berg's issue, Gale Bray didn't want to say anything more. This was his, or rather, Silver City's only chance. You said to let them leave the East Continent. This was a request made by a former chief of the six-person council to Tang, through Gale Bray, the spokesperson for Silver City. And Tang at the time said this. Sure, if they all become my marionettes, I'll take them all out. Seeing Gale Bray's lips pressed tightly together, speechless, Tang chuckled. What's wrong with becoming a marionette? No need to eat, no need to sleep. As long as I don't die, a marionette almost equals eternal life. You can still enjoy this world as a person, and even, if your sequence is high enough and you are special enough, then you hardly need to worry about safety. I can even give you my spirit worm. As a marionette with a spirit worm, one could contribute the authority of a cryptic servant. Unless it's a necessary sacrifice, my marionettes are almost at the top of all beyonders, and even if they die, you just change your way of existing in this world, accompanying me, who is currently considered the strongest ancient scholar. No death, eternal youth, powerful abilities, these were things many beyonders pursued their entire lives. Except for changing the core. But they should be human. As a person, and not a monster whose entire destiny and future have been set. Then there's no way. Tang spread his hands. While I'm not a bad person, I don't think I can change my mind just because you don't want to. Then let's follow my script. Mr. Fool will bless Silver City. Fool Klein Moretti. When Gale Bray raised this question, there were at least 500 years until the appearance of the Fool. In the dark world, bitterly waiting for such a redeeming angel, who might or might not come, Gale Bray's reason told him he should obey, but his emotions, unrestrained by the bionic mimicry module, told him he should not do so. Gale Bray didn't think he would believe in a fool who only existed in the future. With Tang's permission, he and the six-person council at the time agreed to send Silver City's most elite troops to the Giant King's court, which he knew of, preparing to open the door of Dark Angel Sosriel from there. From there, they would leave the forsaken land of the gods. Not only the Fool could save Silver City, he thought, perhaps he could too. But the result was, this elite unit suffered a mysterious ghostly interference when approaching the Silver City area. No matter how far they left, they would always return to Silver City, like a giant loop with a set beginning and end. No one could reach that preset future, and all cheating methods would lead to an outcome they were unwilling to bear. Only when Gale Bray was alone could he pass through unimpeded. But as long as there was someone who wasn't a marionette, as long as someone who didn't know this path followed him, they would inevitably return to Silver City, to the place they left. Moreover, why would you think there are no consequences for using the information I provide? I don't think I would do anything meaningless, unless I wanted to. In repeated attempts, repeated beginnings and endings, the outcome was that all members who participated in this exploration were contaminated by fate and entered Tang's sphere of influence. Only Derek Berg, only Mr. Fool can save you. After all, this is the inevitable fate and destiny, isn't it? Chapter 332, 331 New Member. Those members of the Silver City who were contaminated by fate, all died in a terrifying and bizarre manner during their subsequent external exploration missions. During their explorations, they constantly encountered various influences involving divinity and supernatural creations, and even when inside the Silver City, they would always encounter various sudden accidents, disappearing in unimaginable ways. Outside the city, among those who died in the exploration team, some had humanoid monsters with fingers growing inside them. Some had their bodies cracked open, bones turned outward, and proliferating bones filled all the cracks, sparing no eyes, ears, mouth, or nose. Some laughed as they took monocle after monocle from the historical mist and placed them into the constantly appearing eye sockets on their faces, and on the back of the monocles that were continuously fusing with flesh and blood. Amidst the rolling flesh, one after another, eyeballs filled with madness and hatred proliferated from the flesh and blood, emerging and surging. Their deaths were gruesome, as if they had been parasitized by monsters, one after another, crawling out of the deepest nightmares in various ways. Even after death, the six-person council of the Silver City and Gale Bray dared not bring their corpses back within the Silver City's boundaries for proper burial. As for the contaminated members who disappeared within the Silver City, they were like the unlucky ones of this world, remembered by no one except Gale Bray. This is truly a very interesting experiment. What changes will occur when humans and monsters are grafted together? Will the human devour the Beander-powered monster that resulted from losing control and contamination, or will the monster assimilate the human with emotions and memories? What kind of result will such a grafting yield when the two grafted entities are humans and monsters that are completely equal in the quality of their Beander characteristics, and when the inherent madness in the Beander characteristics and contamination is discarded? Don't look at me like that. As a cryptic servant, isn't it normal to develop one's own Beander abilities? It's just an experimental subject at the cost of human lives. What's there to be surprised about? This lunatic. This damned lunatic who plays with other people's lives. The more Gale Bray watched everything Tang did, the more he felt that he might one day kill him. Even if he would be instantly erased by the system, or even if he just had that thought and put it into practice, the spirit worms in his body would instantly devour him. Or rather, compared to Adam, this lunatic who considered himself a moderate, had more insane and unacceptable methods in some areas. What? This isn't what you thought. Tang spread his hands. I didn't deceive you, this is indeed what we agreed upon from the start, isn't it? To lead the Silver City out of the forsaken land of the gods, everything now is proceeding according to the predetermined fate. It's just that in this process, some people, accidentally, got infected with the contamination of future and fate, and their redeeming angel, Mr. Fool, has not yet descended. Compared to Adam, he said silently, word by word, at the time, you are more like that bastard who deserves to be struck by lightning. If you think that way, I can't do anything about it. Tang's smile remained unchanged. You can try to end all of this, as long as you have a way to bring them out without suffering the fate contamination. Or, kill me. Can he be killed? A cryptic servant who has at least 4 chances to resurrect, can constantly refresh his status through the power of the Supreme Being pathway, can freely enter and exit high and low dimensions, and possesses the world's largest base of marionettes. Can such a monster truly be killed? Even a sequence 0, even a true god. The recollection ended here. Gale Bray walked on the street, trailing far behind Derek Berg, who seemed to have his soul out of his body. He watched him enter the house made of Sunwell ore, which could be used to dispel darkness and bring light. He watched him tremble and kneel on the ground, his eyes hollow and lifeless, seemingly already dead. He saw a figure wearing a black silk top hat and a matching tailcoat appear in Derek Berg's home. Mr. Error, who was meticulously executing the commands of his marionettist, was currently fiddling with a crystal ball emanating a faint deep red glow, which he had taken from somewhere unknown. He aimed it at Derek Berg, who was kneeling on the ground and gradually beginning to whimper from the silent stillness, crying like a young beast that had lost its parents. Mr. Error adjusted it, seemingly noticing someone gazing from a distance. After straightening the crystal ball in his hand, which was connected to the source castle, he very politely pressed down on his black silk top hat, smiled slightly at Gale Bray in the distance, and then his figure gradually disappeared. He left behind that ancient crystal ball, emitting a deep red, hazy glow, carrying a hint of gloom and a hazy gray fog. Gale Bray silently gazed at all of this, then he, too, resolutely turned and left. Great God, please cast your gaze upon this forsaken place once more. Great God, please free us, people of darkness, from that destined curse. I am willing to dedicate my life to you, everything, dedicate to you. Above the source castle, a deep red star began to twinkle. A time worm, pulling the reflection of the star on the water's surface, also emitted a hazy glow from its body, composed of 12 segments. Red light surged like a tide from the depths of the spirit world, passing through the seal on the east continent, sweeping over 2 silent individuals located at different points in the Silver City. Within the mystic space above the gray mist, Mr. Fool Klein looked at the figure that appeared before him. Mr. Error adjusted his black silk top hat, smiling as he also gazed at the person who appeared there due to the surging deep red star. Derek Berg stared blankly at Mr. Fool, who was enveloped in gray fog, layer upon layer, like a god. Mr. Fool, in a relaxed posture, slowly spoke. Gale Bray looked at the gray fog around him, at the magnificent palace above the gray mist, at the countless time worms and spirit worms constantly drilling in and out of the gray mist, deceiving and fooling this gray fog that symbolized the pinnacle power of the three mystic pathways. Finally, he looked at Mr. Error at the head of the bronze long table. Nicholas Flamel. At the same time, he also looked at the very end of the bronze long table. There, Tang Eggers, holding a drawing board, was drawing something unknown. "Ah, you've arrived." Tang lifted his eyelids, glanced at Gale Bray who had appeared there, casually placed his drawing on the bronze long table, then nodded with a smile, greeting the former chief of the Silver City from who knows how many generations ago. "This way, our Diviner Club has another new member." With that, Tang revealed a smile. Mr. Error, at the very top, showed a smile identical to Tang's. Gale Bray instinctively felt a chill down his spine. His mouth twitched, and as he was about to say something, his lips uncontrollably and mischievously curled upwards, revealing a smile identical to Tang's and Mr. Error's. "That's right." Tang clapped his hands with a smile. On both sides of the bronze long table, one after another, grotesque human figures, either composed of masses of time worms or masses of spirit worms, continuously stacked and emerged, occupying all 22 seats on both sides of the bronze long table. One tarot card after another emerged from the mirror-like water surface of the floor. In the tarot card representing Gale Bray, the goddess of victory bent over, stroking a lion trembling with fear in front of her. "Then, let us welcome our new member, Mr. Strength." One by one, the distorted and grotesque human figures, only two of which had truly human appearances. One was the Hanged Man, Alger Wilson, and the other was Justice, Audrey Hall. They smiled, and transparent, translucent worms crawled out of their eyes, ears, mouths, and noses. Each worm, however, also revealed a strange smile. "Ah, what a harmonious scene." Tang sighed. He felt that the Diviner Club was truly thriving. Currently, both Diviner Clubs led by the two leaders have new members joining, which is truly commendable, truly commendable. Time rewound half an hour. Since receiving his Grade 3 Ritualist Qualification Certificate, Klein had been receiving a weekly subsidy of £5. For qualified professional ritual magic examiners, the subsidy for a Grade 3 Ritualist is £5 per week, and for a Grade 2 Ritualist, it is £15 per week. This means a Grade 3 Ritualist can earn £260 a year, and a Grade 2 Ritualist can earn £780. Although this is not a large sum, not even enough to buy a main ingredient for a mid-sequence potion or a potion formula, it is merely icing on the cake. However, what is most important for certified ritualists is that they now have the qualification to use the ritual magic recorded by Miskatonic University that truly possesses strong mysticism power, thus gaining the proper qualification for ritual magic usage. As well as a pass to enter the Miskatonic Library, and the ability to be reimbursed for the cost of materials used in ritual magic within a certain range. Compared to the subsidies, the things behind this grade certificate are actually more important and valuable. And Klein silently felt his power. He was now a Sequence 8 clown. During the Grade 3 Ritual Magic examination, Klein had completely digested the Diviner Potion. After the examination, he also promptly informed his captain about this matter. "You've already digested the Sequence 9 potion." Dunn Smith looked at Klein, then took out a form from his drawer and handed it to Klein, saying with a faint smile, "I remember you should have joined the Diviner Club in Tingen City, right?" "Yes, Captain." Klein had already realized what Dunn Smith was going to say. "Good," Dunn Smith nodded. "Although, Klein, your contributions in the Antigonus family notebook incident and the subsequent series of handling events, as well as the ritualist certificate you obtained this time, are enough for you to exchange for the corresponding Sequence 8 potion formula and its main and auxiliary ingredients within the church. However, after you've digested the corresponding Diviner potion and obtained the Grade 3 Ritual Magic certificate, I think the Diviner Club will also show some appreciation, as they are always generous to their club members. The reason the Diviner Club in Tingen City could grow and expand clearly had a close connection with Miskatonic University. Based on Klein's few experiences at the Diviner Club, it was very normal for them to provide benefits for their members, so normal that Klein, as a seasoned worker, felt like he was being treated as a person. Therefore, recalling that he had previously obtained the clown potion formula from the Diviner Club and received a promise that some main potion ingredients would be provided, Klein thoughtfully said, "After the ritual magic examination, will the Diviner Club provide the remaining main ingredients and corresponding auxiliary ingredients to help me prepare the potion?" "Yes." Dunn nodded, then lightly tapped the document on the table with his finger. "I have submitted a corresponding application to the Black Knight Church's diocese established in Backland. Based on your contributions, you have two choices." Dunn Smith said, "The first choice is that you can obtain the Sequence 7 potion formula of the Seer pathway, named Magician, and some auxiliary ingredients. The main ingredient for Magician and other auxiliary ingredients can also be obtained by you with priority within the church through gold pounds or contributions." "What about the second one?" Klein was somewhat tempted by the first choice, but he still decided to listen to the second. "The second choice is that there are some sealed artifacts within the church that are suitable for us to use and can be utilized within a reasonable range. Like those behind Channy's Gate. Although that door was originally said to be called the Gate of Abomination, Klein, knowing it wasn't a good term, chose another more common name." "Yes." Dunn nodded. "However, compared to the more dangerous sealed artifacts locked behind Channy's Gate, this portion of sealed artifacts provided by the church is more suitable for low-sequence beyonders to use. The sealing methods are also simpler and more direct, and the negative effects won't be as strong. The ownership of these sealed artifacts still belongs to the church, but after your application is approved, you can possess the sealed artifacts provided by the church. However, if the sealed artifact given to you is damaged or lost, you will need to bear the corresponding responsibility and compensation." In other words, these were sealed artifacts for which he only had the right to use, not ownership. Klein thought for a moment and asked, "Can I see those sealed artifacts first?" "Of course," Dunn readily agreed. Chapter 333, 332 The Clown. Most of the sealed artifacts within the Black Knight Church are stored in St. Samuel Cathedral in the Backland Diocese and Quiet Church, the headquarters located in Winter County. The former, because the Backland Diocese itself belongs to a major diocese, and as the Black Knight Goddess Church spreading its faith in ruin, besides Quiet Church which serves as its headquarters, St. Samuel Cathedral in Backland, the capital of the Ruined Kingdom, is the safest. However, in Tingen City, although due to its unique nature, the Black Knight Church also selectively left 2 1-foot level sealed artifacts here. Neither the total number nor the quality can compare to the sealed artifacts in those two major dioceses. Most of the sealed artifacts behind Channis's door, guarded by the Night Watchers of Tingen City, are not suitable for Klein to use. The sealed artifacts applied for by Dunn Smith belong to St. Samuel Cathedral of the Ruined Diocese, and there are 3 sealed artifacts available for Klein to choose from. While giving Klein the application form, he also took out 3 documents. "Read them here. These cannot be taken out of the office." "Understood, Captain." Klein took the documents Dunn gave him and read them carefully. Number: 0627. Name: Eye of Life. Danger level: 3 feet, somewhat dangerous, use with caution. Confidentiality level: Night Watchers official members and above. Sealing method: placed in a room with no spiritual life forms within a radius of 12 meters. The liquid storing the sealed artifact must be changed every 24 hours. Description: this is an eyeball without a sclera, stored in a container filled with saline solution. During a Night Watchers raid on an Aurora Order blood sacrifice ritual, the Night Watchers discovered that all the eyes of the sacrificed individuals had been gouged out. While processing these sacrificed individuals, the Night Watchers found 30627, a malevolent sealed artifact named Eye of Life. Preliminary confirmation indicates that this sealed artifact constantly attempts to parasite on the eyeballs of other spiritual animals. When all spiritual animals lose their eyes, 30627 will leave the host and parasite the next one. According to internal Night Watcher's data, approximately 83% of original hosts will fall into a state of hallucination and pain due to sudden loss of eyes, unable to clearly perceive the condition of their own eyeballs, with long-term low mental state, unable to maintain normal physiological functions. Approximately 11% of original hosts will experience frenzied emotions after the Eye of Life detaches from the host. Approximately 2% of hosts will experience both of the above situations. Observations indicate that the torn nerves and blood vessels of this sealed artifact contain a small amount of weak toxicity, which prevents the parasite from perceiving the condition of its own eyes, and becomes ineffective after the sealed artifact detaches. This eye possesses certain living characteristics and has attempted to escape its seal, trying to parasite on the eyeballs of the Night Watchers guarding it to escape. After long-term experimentation, we discovered that hosts parasite by 30627, although they will lose an eyeball after 5 minutes. During this process, the vital signs of the parasite host will be greatly enhanced, severed limbs will regenerate, and life signs on the verge of death will also be significantly reversed. Appendix: a rose bishop skilled in flesh magic attempted to regenerate a corresponding eyeball, but failed. The regenerated eyeball could not perform the function of vision, suspected to have been completely parasite by 30627. After detachment, the host will be unable to regain vision through such methods. This sealed artifact feels a bit dangerous. This should correspond to Sequence 8, Physician, of the plantar pathway, but why does it involve devouring others' eyeballs? Is it related to the true Creator's sacrifice? Has it suffered some degree of contamination? Klein pondered, and after reading the information on this 3 feet level sealed artifact, he continued to turn the page to the next one. Number: 0112. Name: Fighter's Gloves. Danger level: 3 feet, somewhat dangerous, use with caution. Confidentiality level: Bishop, Squad Captain, and above. Sealing method: placed in a room with a dummy. The gloves must be used at least once a week, otherwise they will attack the next person who puts them on. Description: these are a pair of gloves stained with old blood, full of grime. The owner of the blood cannot be determined, but it has been confirmed that there are at least 40 different human blood residues on this sealed artifact. This sealed artifact originated from an item held by a wild Beander who had lost control. According to the Night Watcher's investigation, a person wearing these gloves can, within a short period, exhibit combat skills beyond his current level, mastering various weapons and fighting techniques. Within a certain range, there is also a certain resistance to mysticism powers. Excellent combat techniques, and also a certain resistance to some mysticism powers. Klein always felt that as a diviner, his combat ability was too weak compared to Beyonders of other sequences. The existence of this sealed artifact could, to some extent, precisely improve this situation. But there's still one more, no need to rush. After reading this, Klein turned the page again. He concentrated intently until he saw the description of the last sealed artifact, then he raised his head in surprise and looked at Dunn Smith, who was watching him. "Captain, what is this?" "This is a sealed artifact recently obtained by the Church. It doesn't have a specific description or experiments yet, so the information is relatively scarce," Dunn said concisely. Klein made an "oh" sound, then continued to read the information in his hand. Number: not yet assigned. Name: Thief's Monocle. Danger level: 2 feet, dangerous, use cautiously and sparingly. Only operations with 3 or more people, or deacons and diocesan bishops can apply. Tentative. Confidentiality level: Bishop, Squad Captain, and above. Sealing method: currently known. When carried by the wearer, this sealed artifact will not have a significant impact. Better sealing method: unknown. Description: this is a monocle carved from crystal. Through it, the user seems to be able to see some true scenes and see-through illusions. Recently, in many areas of Backland, thieves wearing monocles have been frequently seen roaming the streets and alleys. During the Night Watchers' cleanup operations, they discovered that these thieves acted strangely, and their abnormality stemmed from the monocles they wore. People wearing the monocle will, within a certain range, amplify their desire to steal and deceive, and can increase their chances and luck in theft. This monocle can be continuously replicated by providing spirituality. While holding the original sealed artifact, the holder can, through the replicas, control other people who are also wearing the monocle to a certain extent. Appendix: Wixen was a typical Backland tramp. During one theft, his legs were broken. Just when everyone thought he was dead, he reappeared in public a month later, wearing a monocle over his left eye. After that, people noticed that Wixen's legs seemed to have recovered, and his stealing techniques became increasingly sophisticated. During the Night Watchers' eradication efforts, Wixen attempted to steal the heart of one of the Night Watchers and was shot dead. On his left eye, he was wearing what appeared to be a monocle carved from crystal. Klein pressed his lips together, looking at the description. He always felt that this description matched someone he had in mind. But, why couldn't he remember who it was? This strange feeling flashed through Klein's mind. He seemed to hear someone chuckle, and from the corner of his eye, he saw someone walk past the door, wearing a monocle carved from crystal in his left eye socket. He seemed to be Leonard Mitchell. But behind Leonard Mitchell, a young man with a broad forehead, thin face, wearing a magician's pointed soft hat and a robe of the same color, smiled as he passed by the door. Klein was momentarily dazed, then remembered nothing. He then followed up on his question, "Captain, why would the church offer me a 2 feet level sealed artifact?" Having no clue, Klein could only ask Dunn, trying to get an answer from him. The application conditions for 2 feet level sealed artifacts should be much more difficult than for 3 feet level sealed artifacts. Many 2 feet level sealed artifacts are daunting just because of their terrifying negative effects, but the description of this sealed artifact's information is very strange. It seems the reason he can apply for it is because. Dunn quickly answered Klein's question. He slowly said, "For some sealed artifacts that are not particularly harmful, entrusting them to beyonders within the church to explore more effective sealing methods and usage is both a task and our contribution." At this point, Dunn paused. "However, whether there are deeper reasons involved, I'm not quite sure. This is clearly a sealed artifact related to the thief pathway, and in Tingen City, there is the strongest thief. Is it because it's related to him that this item was given to Klein?" Dunn wondered. Indeed, Klein had a clear expression. To give him a choice of a 2 feet level sealed artifact, the church must also want to obtain first-hand information about this sealed artifact. And sometimes, the attempt itself carries certain dangers. But why did Captain add that last sentence? Other deeper reasons. Klein pondered for a moment and came to the same conclusion as Dunn. Perhaps, it might be related to that error. No need to rush. You can tell me which sealed artifact you choose after you've thought it through. Perhaps, you can become a clown first. Dunn said with a smile to Klein, "You can go to the Diviner Club this afternoon to get your potion. To become a Sequence 8 feet clown." "Yes, all right." Klein suppressed the strange feeling and the sudden re-emergence of dizziness in his heart, and walked out of the captain's office with the application form. Later that afternoon, he received the clown potion at the Diviner Club. The senior member stationed at 17 Blue Rose Street today was not Lillard, the Sequence 5 marionettist Klein had met last time. The receptionist at the Diviner Club had also changed. Led by this receptionist, Klein saw another Sequence 5 marionettist, and from him, he readily obtained the Sequence 8 feet clown potion, which seemed to have been prepared in advance. "You don't seem surprised by my visit." "Heh. As a diviner, I always do a divination for the day's fortune before going out." My divination result today is that something good will happen." The marionettist chuckled. "You see, a new Sequence 8 has appeared. Ah, I have a premonition, perhaps you will be the youngest demigod in the Diviner Club." "You flatter me." Klein felt a bit embarrassed. What demigod? That was still far from him. After Klein completed his advancement at the Diviner Club, He stabilized his spirituality there, then bid farewell to the marionettist of the Diviner Club, preparing to go home and stabilize the increased spirituality after becoming a clown, as well as familiarize himself with the new abilities gained from the potion. Standing in his room at 47 Gold Rose Street, Klein took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered the gray mist. Indeed, with the increase in spirituality, I can pull one more person into this mysterious space above the gray mist. As he thought of this, Klein looked up at the magnificent palace. Above this seemingly boundless gray mist, there were many things similar to the crimson stars possessed by the Hanged Man in Justice. Klein was pondering something when he suddenly saw a crimson star not far away, which suddenly burst into a very strange halo. Someone seems to be praying to him. As the King of Yellow and Black who presided over good fortune, Klein's novelty of just becoming a clown had not worn off. He casually pulled over that crimson star, intending to see what was happening. He saw a young boy kneeling on the ground, sobbing and muttering something continuously. He saw a completely black world, with only a few lightning bolts falling from the sky. Great God, please cast your gaze once more upon this place you have forsaken. Great God, please free us, the people of darkness, from that fated curse. Forsaken, darkness. Klein's gaze paused slightly. He remembered a place a theology professor once mentioned in his theology course at Khoi University. It was said to be a non-existent continent, forsaken by the gods in the distant Third Epoch. Forsaken land of the gods. Chapter 334, 333 Turing Test. In the mysterious space above the gray mist, the Tarot Club members, filling every seat, watched the conversation between the Fool and the Sun reflected on the mirror-like surface below. Currently, the official members of the Tarot Club, led by the Fool, are Mr. Fool, Klein Moretti, the Hanged Man, Alger Wilson, Fake Justice, Audrey Hall, Fake, and the Sun, Derek Berg, Real. The Tarot Club led by Error, acting as a control group, consists of Mr. Error, the Hanged Man, Alger Wilson, Real, Justice, Audrey Hall, Real, and Strength, Gail Bray. One mirror reflected 2 tarot gatherings happening simultaneously, with different members, one half fake, one half real. So, which side was real, and which was false? Tang watched the people and objects reflected in the water mirror on the ground, a faint smile never leaving his lips. Not until Mr. Fool left the gray mist, having sent off the newly joined Derek Berg, who drew the Sun card, and Gail Bray, who drew the Strength card, did Mr. Error scan his surroundings. He looked at the time worms and spirit worms on the surrounding seats, clustering together and gradually disappearing, merging with the gray mist. Finally, he turned to Tang, who had picked up his drawing board again, at the lowest end of the bronze long table. It seems you're in a good mood. How did the Salinger matter turn out? Mr. Error asked. The place deep within the violent sea was inherently special, involving some of the power left behind by Sequence Zero Death. Without special authority and Beyander abilities, even Mr. Error, an Angel King, would find it difficult to understand the internal situation or easily invade it. Although the mausoleum had flaws and errors in its defense, allowing Mr. Error, who controlled this part of the authority, to exploit loopholes, it also contained a large amount of mental pollution, involving the source material Eternal Dark River, making it quite dangerous. Eamon and Adam should have known about this place, and they had never easily ventured there over thousands of years. However, Tang was different. Theoretically, as one of the 3 pathways that make up the upper narrative, the Supreme Being's pollution and will also originated from the upper narrative, which is the Transmigrator himself, and would not be easily affected by the Eternal Dark River or Salinger's mental imprint. With the appropriate authority, Tang, possessing a bloodline connection, had a very high probability and safety in entering it. And as a qualified cryptic servant, even if his main body had things to do and would not appear in public for a long time, the marionettes he placed in various regions, imbued with his spirit worms, and the historical void images pulled out by ancient scholars, could exert near Angel King combat power even when his main body was absent. Not to mention the Supreme Being's grace and various other miscellaneous things. This only made the cryptic servant, whose main body was hidden, even more terrifying, difficult to contend with, and difficult to suffer fatal damage. Even when one life couldn't be cleared, facing a cryptic servant with 5 lives who hid himself and only acted through historical void images and marionettes, the thought alone was terrifying. Therefore, Nether Emperor Salinger's contingency plan, this mausoleum submerged deep within the violent sea, was also an extremely powerful protective and hidden area, originally intended to help Salinger revive, but it instead benefited the invader who came to deal with him. At this moment, Tang, currently active above Source Castle, was such a carrier born from the combination of historical void images and spirit worms, resulting in an error, and could also be considered a marionette created by the main body. After all, hanging one's own historical void image as a marionette was a common practice for high-level diviners. Even if his main body needed to stay deep in the violent sea for a long time to deal with the lingering issues of Nether Emperor Salinger, he could still achieve his goals through various marionettes, historical void images, and sealed artifacts. Mr. Error watched Tang, who had put down his drawing board. "I'm in a pretty good mood, actually, since dealing with Salinger went quite smoothly. I've grafted his 2 contingency plans together, and I'm preparing to stuff them all back into the eternal dark river to trouble the goddess. But this is delicate work, plus I need to stay here as a past anchor, so I shouldn't be leaving anytime soon, but it seems you have something more to say, my dear Flammel." Mr. Error. Tang pondered for a moment, then hummed and asked, "Are you asking why I didn't tell the truth?" Gale Bray's mental state is unstable, and the system detected his abnormality. At this rate, he might not be able to achieve his goal and will commit suicide after ensuring the citizens of Silver City leave the forsaken land of the gods. Is that it? Not everyone can retain so much humanity after living for so long. After Sequence 4, the clash between divinity and humanity already begins, and much of humanity gradually diminishes due to the struggle against divinity, leaving only the most core emotions. This is an inevitable price. Even if marionettes equipped with the bionic mimicry module could continuously replenish this part, Tang did not do so. "I've already guessed the reason," Mr. Error said. "Part of it is the Turing test, right?" "The Turing test? Ah, yes, something like that." Tang placed the painting in his hand on the bronze long table. The painting depicted a vast starry sky, with 2 blue planets orbiting a deep red star. He rested his chin on his hands, scanning the magnificent palace above the gray mist. After all, the bionic mimicry module is essentially a tool replicated and manufactured from data, possessing human-like memory and emotions. Its operating principle is fundamentally not much different from AI. However, the processors are the system and knowledge wilderness, 2 mysticism terminals, with nearly infinite computing power. After inputting relevant data, the AI will continuously generate and expand on matters related to that data, answering questions on its own. This, when reflected in marionettes, is equivalent to their autonomous actions when there are no instructions or manipulations from the marionettist. Essentially, it is still a simulation, operation, and processing carried out by the system and knowledge wilderness, these 2 large mysticism terminals. However, in cases of network disconnection, meaning being sealed by a traveler, for instance, or entering the forsaken land of the gods and being unable to operate, or the marionettist losing contact, the bionic mimicry module can still perform subsequent automatic operations for a short period using pre-downloaded data. And to make the bionic mimicry module more perfect, the necessary thing should be data, just like feeding data to an AI. For example, how would humans react in such a situation? Even with the calculations of knowledge wilderness and the system, there would be no creation out of nothing, they require basic logic as support. Among countless possible developments, the bionic mimicry module's calculations would always have more or less errors. Only by the system reorganizing them and upgrading all bionic mimicry modules could the marionettes continuously approach the concept of human. The Turing test is used to distinguish between humans and machines. Non-humans marionettes equipped with the bionic mimicry module will always have some instances where their imperfections and errors cause others to perceive their non-human nature. To counter this, a continuous stream of data is needed to support the bionic mimicry module's continuous self-improvement and evolution. In the Turing test, if a marionette is identified as non-human, the system will summarize the factors that led to its identification and simultaneously share this possibility of being discovered with all other marionettes, achieving a further level of perfection. Therefore, without these unexpected situations and possibilities occurring, to upgrade the bionic mimicry module, one can only use exhaustive enumeration to continuously simulate scenarios and thus obtain the information the system needs. Of course, saying that the Turing test was used to hide something from Galbraith should only account for a very small part of the reason. After all, with a sufficiently large base of marionettes, many possibilities no longer need to be exhaustively enumerated. As for why I hid the truth, I've been hiding it from Dao Dao before, they just didn't ask, right? What does their not asking have to do with me? Speaking of which, it's their own fault for coming to me to demand an explanation without clarifying things first. I'm an angel king, I have a temper, okay. Mr. Error, so, it's their fault then. Of course, Tang said as a matter of course. Following you, everyone has suffered so much. Mr. Error sighed again. Speaking of which, he was also a marionette. Was it really appropriate for a marionette to be worrying about such trivial things here? I thought the hints I gave were obvious enough. Whether it was Tingen City, the Tarot Club, or other parts, I didn't hide any of that, did I? Wait. Tang suddenly thought of something, looked up at Mr. Error, and asked with a suspicious look, what kind of image do I have in your minds? He remembered that his previous image wasn't that bloodthirsty, right? What kind of monster had these guys demonized him into? Was he the kind of monster who needed to eat a few children to calm down every now and then? Or did they think he had been influenced by the celestial worthy, indiscriminately killing the innocent and acting recklessly? Was he wrong just for speaking his mind? That brings us to the other part of the reason I just mentioned. Mr. Error smiled. If I had to say, it's a heartless boss who exploits employees, demands 007 without pay. A black-hearted boss, constantly KTVing his own marionettes and demanding their lives. As for Mr. Galbraith, I imagine the evaluations would be something like, psychopath, madman who's gone crazy with killing, you're the one who should be in a mental hospital, and so on. After all, sometimes, your performance is truly outstanding. I sometimes wonder, when it comes to acting as the Lord of the Mysteries, who is better, you or the celestial worthy? Tang. In the ranking of acting as the Lord of the Mysteries, he was first, and the celestial worthy was second, right? But, did I exploit you? Tang was a little incredulous. How could Nicholas say that about him? Put your hand on your heart and tell me, no. Mr. Error maintained his smiling expression, amiably complaining to his own marionettist. The system, taking a quick glance over and quickly making its presence known. Yes, host, you're slacking off eating snacks in the mausoleum. This system saw it. They were all working here. How could you be like this, host? Tang, who always liked to pull out Nicholas Flamel's historical void image whenever he was in a head-on confrontation with anyone. This. Muted, didn't want to talk. After the small talk, seeing Tang's face looking like, am I really that bad? Mr. Error felt that his marionettist should reflect a little on whether he had been too inhuman, and at the same time, as he was reflecting on whether he had spoken too hurtfully. He spoke again. The script for Tingen City is about to end, Tang. Okay, let's blow up the entire Tingen City later, Tang immediately replied. Mr. Error. Alright, he took back that pitiful tiny bit of reflection. This guy sometimes really didn't like to act human. Seriously, why do I have to do this? Ruined Kingdom, Tingen City. The young man sitting atop the clock tower of Khoi University, overlooking the entire city, habitually pinched the monocle in his left eye socket. His gaze swept to the side, and a figure wearing a black silk top hat stepped from a higher dimension into a lower one, coming to Amon's side. Are you all that impatient? That child is truly pitiful. Ever since he came to this world, he has lived under your schemes. Nicola glanced at the harmless, smiling, yet surprisingly sharp-tongued Amon, then raised his eyelids and asked, "When did you become so talkative, Your Excellency, the former blasphemer?" Amon smiled, "I thought you would like this personality." He smiled and used a finger to lift the bottom edge of his monocle, looking towards a certain spot in Tingen City. Reflected in the monocle, his eyes saw vast, shimmering golden, viscous, bottomless mine shaft scenes, like an ocean. This was a newly discovered energy source in Tingen City, utilized in various fields, efficient, clean, with mysticism effects, and quite powerful in the sun domain. The Well of the Sun. Destroying the entire Tingen City, disguising it as a plot by the true creator, original witch, hidden sage, and myself, acting while you were away, letting the problem erupt, right? Yes. Nicola nodded concisely. Amon also nodded as if understanding. He looked at Nicola and asked with a smile, "Then what is my reward?" "It will be what you desire." Amon's smile deepened, "Then I shall look forward to it." Chapter 335, Whose is 334. After exchanging words with a young man reportedly from Silver City, Klein returned to the real world. Since he had only recently been promoted to clown, the Night Watchers, with considerable emotion, granted Klein paid leave, so he wasn't in a hurry to return to work. After dinner, and a brief chat with Benson and Melissa, Klein, citing work pressure, returned to his room early and once again entered Grey Mist. Sitting at the head of the long bronze table, Klein gazed at the ancient and magnificent palace, resting his chin on his hand in thought for a moment. He had other tasks to attend to this time, so he wasn't in a rush to leave this mysterious space above the Grey Mist. Ever since his promotion to clown, with the growth of his spirituality and his understanding of Sequence 9, Diviner Potion, Klein could confidently call himself a professional diviner. Moreover, he occasionally discovered that this mysterious space above the Grey Mist had a certain ability to eliminate interference, making it clearly the most suitable place for a diviner to exercise his abilities. Utilizing his unique connection to this Grey Mist, Klein retrieved a feather pen that didn't require ink to write from the gray fog, and then pulled out a blank sheet of paper to serve as the medium for his divination statements. Regarding the 3 mystical items provided by Dunn Smith, Klein, speaking from the heart, still preferred the second one, which was the gauntlet. After all, the first one might carry the true creator's corruption, and the third one was a bit too strange. Of course, as a diviner, it was perfectly normal to make his choices by following the rules of mysticism. To be safe, Klein decided to perform a divination on all 3 sealed artifacts. He spread the white paper flat on the long bronze table and wrote a series of words in ancient Hermes on it. The subsequent development if I choose the Eye of Life sealed artifact. As a clown who had already advanced to Sequence 8, when faced with a dilemma, he naturally needed to use the power of divination to achieve his goals. After silently repeating the divination statement he needed 7 times, Klein leaned back, his consciousness sinking into a dream. In the dream, Klein saw a puppet. The blurred features of the puppet in the dream divination looked somewhat similar to the image of Klein Moretti, and around the puppet was a very blurry darkness. From within the darkness, something surged towards it, and the puppet, situated in the darkness, suddenly trembled all over. Then, a large amount of filthy, mad things rushed towards the puppet. They were viscous, as if the embodiment of all the filth and depravity in the world. Upon contact with these black, viscous, filthy things, the puppet grew one black eyeball after another without whites, and its shadow, in the dark environment, actually materialized. The living shadow wrapped around the puppet, and then, it broke its neck and all its limbs, hanging them all up. Distortion, madness, filth, terror, and depravity, these were Klein's most direct sensory impacts. And in this endless darkness, the eyes growing on the puppet suddenly looked in a certain direction. The dream trembled, suddenly vanished, and Klein abruptly opened his eyes. He gasped, alertly looking around at the unchanging gray fog. To be honest, he even felt as if that darkness was about to penetrate the dream and ascend to this gray mist. After calming down for a moment, seeing no movement above the gray mist, he slowly recalled what he had just seen through the dream divination. This should be the true creator's corruption attached to this sealed artifact. That filthy, mad power, even through a layer of dream and a layer of gray mist, made Klein feel an instinctive fear from the bottom of his heart. This is an evil god. However, from the revelation of this divination, the final outcome of choosing this sealed artifact is very likely that I will be affected by the sealed artifact itself, perhaps unknowingly becoming tainted with the madness originating from the true creator. Finally, separating the head and all the limbs, Shang Yang. After associating with some dark jokes, Klein, chilled by his own thoughts, slightly calmed his spirituality. Only then did he take out a new sheet of paper and continue writing the divination statement he would use next. The second sealed artifact was 30112, the Pugilist's Glove, a sealed artifact formed from the Beander characteristic of a Sequence 8 pugilist from the Warrior pathway. Compared to the previous and subsequent sealed artifacts, this one was quite unremarkable, without overly difficult sealing methods or explosive points like the true creator's corruption. It provides some close combat capabilities. While it doesn't reach the level of a Sequence 7 Weapon Master, for a clown who already has self-preservation abilities, it's just right given the lack of effective offensive means. Diviner turned boxer. If words can't convince you, then fists will. Ah, that's also a dark joke. Although he already had a preference, Klein still performed a divination on this Beander item as per custom. The divination result was, as expected, quite good and met his expectations. Only one item left. Klein gazed at the strange Beander item he had simulated with the help of the gray mist. He was slightly silent. That sense of confusion, as if his eyes had suddenly been veiled and he couldn't see clearly, resurfaced. The more he looked at this thing, the more familiar it felt. I always feel like I've seen this somewhere, and often, but why do I have no impression of it at all? Shaking his head, Klein frowned in thought. And he seemed to have thought about this question before when he saw this thing. Why didn't he remember it? Did he only remember after seeing the actual item? Is it because this is a 2-class sealed artifact, involving the Beander abilities of the mid-sequence of the thief pathway? Tapping his finger lightly on the bronze long table, Klein leaned back slightly in the high-backed chair. Closing his eyes, he was pondering. He always felt that this sealed artifact was not that simple. Something from the thief pathway. Tingen City has the most powerful Mr. Error. He is the pinnacle existence of the thief pathway. Could this thing belong to that Mr. Error? No, it doesn't seem like it. Although the names and abilities of the thief pathway demigod level potions were not accessible to Klein at his current rank within the Night Watchers, he was still relatively familiar with this pathway. After all, Miskatonic University in Tingen City already controlled both the thief and diviner pathways. The silent rule of no stealing in Tingen City was a prohibition for those thieves who needed to digest their potions. For thieves not from Tingen City, once they stole something, as soon as they finished stealing, the Tingen City Police Department would come knocking to check their gas meters. As for the thieves in Tingen City, all losses incurred during their potion digestion process would be borne by Miskatonic University itself, and thieves are always familiar with thieves. The thieves in Tingen City would naturally reject and try to expel external thieves. This has led to the current situation where Beyonders of the thief pathway are divided into two types: Tingen City thieves and not Tingen City thieves. As one of the two complete pathways controlled by Miskatonic University, Klein, as a Night Watcher, would occasionally learn about the Beander abilities of these external thief pathway Beyonders, abilities not recorded in the Night Watcher's data, or beyond his clearance level, during missions involving them. Sequence 6 Arsonist, Sequence 5 Dream Stealer. Regarding stealing, after reaching Sequence 5, it began to involve the memory level. Amidst his surging thoughts, Klein recalled something and began to meticulously scrutinize his memories. These things, which he had never thought of before coming above the gray mist, were immediately recognized as problematic by Klein in this gray mist, after the interference was removed. And Klein quickly thought of the most likely way to get the correct answer at the moment. Divination. To perform divination in this area with its special ability to eliminate interference, and to perform divination on himself. In the field of divination, divinations involving the concept of I were extremely difficult to interfere with, especially when in this mysterious space. Klein speculated that as long as it wasn't a direct confrontation with great existences like the true creator, this space could block it. Not long after, the divination result came out. The divination result was naturally quite obvious. Klein had indeed lost a segment of memory that he had later inexplicably overlooked. The discontinuity of his memory allowed the clown, who already possessed extremely strong spiritual intuition, to detect clues and discover the problem in this special space. Someone stole my memory. His spirit grew solemn. Who was it? Was it Nicholas Flamel, Mr. Error, who I met once and might be a senior transmigrator? Or other high-level beyonders of the thief pathway? Did they discover my uniqueness? But if they did, why didn't they come directly? Not to mention Mr. Error, even if an ordinary Sequence 7 or Sequence 6 were dispatched, Klein, at his level, would have no chance of resisting. Unless he could utilize this gray mist, which he didn't know how to use, but whether this gray mist could block Mr. Error was still an unknown. That was the highest-ranking Beyander of the thief pathway, very likely the existence closest to the concept of God. In this era where gods were real and high above, facing such suppression, Klein felt that he would directly surrender himself to Tingen City, which would actually give him a chance to survive. Or, they want to use me for something, or perhaps enemy. An enemy of Tingen City, also a high-level Beyander of the thief pathway, did this. He, or she, discovered his problem, thought it profitable, and then sent this thing to him. Were those vague memories also caused by that external thief? Looking at the monocle carved like crystal, Klein gazed deeply for a moment, thought for a bit, and still decided to try a divination. After all, if he didn't even figure out who the enemy was, subsequent matters would probably be quite troublesome. I feel like I'm courting death again. Opening his eyes, he pulled a new sheet of paper from the void, picked up the feather pen on the table, and quickly wrote a passage in ancient Hermes on the table. The origin of this monocle, the origin of this monocle, the origin of this monocle. After repeating it 7 times, Klein took a deep breath, then leaned back again, his consciousness sinking into a dream. In the dream, it was a hazy golden color. Golden. Klein's pupils contracted. He saw a very blurry figure. That figure stood behind another person Klein was extremely familiar with, and seemed to sense something, looking towards him. It was a figure wearing a black pointed soft hat and a classical magician's robe. Its face was indistinct, but a crystal-carved monocle was the most striking and clear feature in this dream divination. This is. Klein saw reflected in the monocle worn in the left eye socket of that person a scene of scorching madness, like an overwhelming torrent of magma, a doomsday scenario. The figure wearing the monocle, sensing someone watching, grinned and laughed. He spread his arms, assuming a posture as if embracing the sun. Let us praise the sun. The dream suddenly shattered, and the entire gray mist completely boiled, as if divining something incomprehensible and unspeakable. The afterglow of the sun ignited Klein's entire body. He screamed and fell from the high-backed chair, his entire spirit body completely ignited. He really courted death. The gray mist was violently shaking, and heat waves and madness spread from his cracked spirit, as if he had swallowed a mouthful of magma. Klein only felt his brain burning, about to be reduced to ashes. After an unknown amount of time, Klein finally recovered, his spirit body recondensing. If I hadn't already advanced to clown, I'm afraid Mr. Hanged Man, Ms. Justice, and the newly joined Mr. Sun would have already given their Mr. Fool a funeral. Enduring the pain throughout his body, Klein gasped and slowly sat back in the high-backed chair. He was somewhat fatigued as he traced the previous paper with the divination statement, slowly recalling what he had just seen. The previous impact not only ignited his spirituality, almost taking him away on the spot, but also provided him with some incredible knowledge. Thief Pathway Sequence 4, Potion Name, Parasite. Leonard, the monocle he wears is exactly the same as the one Captain showed me. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And support the author by link in description. You mean, Leonard Mitchell from the Night Watchers has a problem. In a coffee shop beside a bustling street outside Tingen University, Tang took his seat and heard Klein say such a serious thing. It was night, and a red moon hung high in the sky. Beneath the red moon, the streets were still bustling with people coming and going, with many young people dressed as university students moving back and forth, creating a lively scene. The coffee shop where Klein and Tang were sitting was much quieter than the outside, and the lingering scent of coffee beans in the air slightly slowed Klein's rapidly beating heart. Tang, sitting opposite Klein, pondered what Klein had said for a moment, then asked, "Klein, I don't quite understand what you mean by, has a problem. What kind of anomaly are you referring to? Loss of control, a spy, or something else?" Klein took a deep breath, then spoke to Tang, saying with some difficulty, "After I advanced to Sequence 8 Clown, Captain Dunn gave me a choice of a sealed artifact within the church." Tang picked up the coffee on the table, took a sip. "So, the sealed artifact has a problem." "Yes," Klein slowly explained, "the church recently confiscated a sealed artifact in Backland. The church internally calls it the Thief's Monocle, and I think it must be related to the Thief sequence." I've heard about this, vaguely. It's said that a group of Beyonders from the Thief sequence, wearing monocles, appeared in Backland and frequently attended various illegal Beyonder gatherings." Tang nodded. "In fact, the monocle, in the history of mysticism, was a core symbol of the Thief sequence for a long time in ancient times. I cannot disclose the specific reasons, but I can tell you that after Mr. Error Nicholas Flamel reclaimed his authority, the corresponding core symbol changed." "The core symbol changed?" Klein tentatively asked. "Does this change itself also represent an iteration? Mr. Error reclaimed his authority, and the core symbol changed. Does this monocle represent a higher sequence Beyonder of the Thief sequence from Mr. Error Nicholas Flamel's earlier time?" The information Tang revealed was itself a secret, and he did not answer Klein's question. He merely shrugged, helplessly saying, "I'm not very clear about the affairs of those great figures, but what are you saying this for? We weren't discussing." He suddenly realized something and frowned. "Are you saying that the former core symbol of the Thief sequence has some connection with that Leonard Mitchell you mentioned?" In his impression, Leonard Mitchell did indeed wear a strange-looking monocle. But the monocle was only formerly a core symbol of the Thief sequence. Nowadays, not everyone wearing a monocle is a parasite of that fellow. "I feel very familiar," Klein said. "And when I felt familiar, I confirmed it through other methods, and I found that there was a problem with my memory." As Beyonders of the Diviner sequence, both Klein and Tang knew that the lower sequences of this sequence were known for their high spiritual perception and strong divination abilities. Discovering a hint of abnormality during the process of a diviner advancing to clown, and then realizing something, is a very normal occurrence. In Klein's thoughts, attributing this problem to an anomaly discovered during the unstable spiritual state after advancement also avoids exposing the mysterious space above the gray mist. Klein couldn't be sure if Miskatonic University held goodwill towards people like him. He felt that before fully exposing himself, or rather, before becoming powerful on his own and confirming Miskatonic University's goodwill, it was best not to expose this biggest trump card of his. Memory problems. This is indeed not the ability of a nightmare. Although they can hide others' memories and make some modifications, a Sequence 7 is clearly incapable of such precise control. Tang fell silent. He pondered for a moment before saying, "As for the Thief sequence, starting from their Sequence 5, they possess a certain ability to tamper with and steal others' thoughts and memories. This sequence becomes even more powerful and difficult to detect after reaching Sequence 4. So, you mean that Leonard Mitchell might have been targeted by a high sequence Beyonder of the Thief sequence? Or even, already become a parasite target? And that demigod of the Thief sequence is related to the previous, Error, before Mr. Error Nicholas Flamel." "Amen," Tang murmured silently, and Klein heard him. The former, Error, was called Amen. Klein's heart stirred, but he still restrained himself from asking. He had not exposed that he had obtained some mysticism knowledge from Amen, and Tang had not pointed this out. He was now inferring entirely based on the hints Klein had given. Although 90% of this matter was his own doing. With the uncertain factor of Amon present, Klein's choice not to inform Dunsmith was a normal and reasonable development, especially after confirming that this was a demigod, and that all of them combined were not enough to fight Amon alone. Informing Dunsmith and attempting to contact someone in the Black Knight Church who could handle this matter would be an extremely foolish thing. Perhaps before they could even call for help, Leonard Mitchell, who had been parasite by Amon and precisely knew what trump cards Blackthorn Security Company possessed, could wipe out the entire Night Watchers team. And without confirming whether Dunsmith and other Night Watchers were also parasite by a parasite, informing him, who represents another larger and stronger force in Tingen City, is also a reasonable development. Essentially, Beyonders of the Thief Sequence faction are either friends of Miskatonic University or their enemies. After Klein left the Grey Mist, he quickly found Tang, who was still researching things at Tingen University, and told him his concerns. Since he couldn't handle it himself, he would report it to the official agency and let them negotiate and deal with it. A high-sequence Beyonder of the Thief Sequence had entered Tingen City without anyone knowing, and parasite a Night Watcher of the Black Knight Church. There must be some unknown scheme behind this. That naturally made them enemies. And what would be the most secure way to get the highest sequence Beyonder of the Thief Sequence to notice and deal with it? We will conduct corresponding investigations in the next few days. Well, to be honest, the investigators have been very busy lately due to the ritual magic level exams and other matters. I don't know if Mr. Flammel has time to deal with it. Klein, don't go back to the Night Watchers for now. I'll send a message to your captain, saying that you've been temporarily transferred by the Diviner Club for some matters that require your attention. Tang motioned to a nearby waiter, asking him to bring a quill and some blank papers, and immediately began writing a letter. As a newly promoted clown, during the promotion process, one needs some time to familiarize oneself with one's Beyonder abilities, and at the same time, for Sequence 7, Magician's main materials and potion formula, obviously, the Diviner Club is more suitable for training and obtaining opportunities for promotion than the Night Watchers. This is a good excuse and an explanation. We should try not to alert the enemy. After quickly writing a string of words, Tang folded it and handed it to the nearby waiter, turning to him and saying, "Please deliver this letter to 32 Red Rose Street, to a person named Dunsmith." Okay. The waiter quickly tidied the letter Tang had given him and walked briskly backward, bowing. Tang withdrew his gaze from the direction the waiter had left and refocused on Klein. "Don't be so nervous, Klein. Tingen City is one of the most heavily guarded cities. The defensive forces deployed here are no less than those in Backland, the capital of the Ruined Kingdom. Unless a deity personally intervenes, even angels and archangels can only humble themselves in this area. This was Mr. Error's divine kingdom. All who trespassed here would suffer the most terrifying deception and mockery. As for if it were to collapse from within." Looking at the confident Tang, Klein nodded. Indeed, with Mr. Error present, as the highest sequence Beyonder of the Thief Sequence, the parasite on Leonard should be eliminated very quickly. It's just, why was his heart still beating so fast, and why did he still feel no sense of relief after hearing this? The young man with round glasses, a full forehead, black hair, and brown eyes walked on the street, looking at the prosperous surroundings. The corners of his mouth slightly curved upwards, giving him a seemingly honest appearance, yet in some unintentional corners, he always gave people the illusion of looking down on and mocking everyone. This is Tingen City. Aside from these ordinary people looking ordinary and fulfilling, it doesn't feel as good as those people usually describe it, so seriously. Lanela scanned his surroundings, observing the diverse people quickly passing by from the perspective of a seasoned con artist. As a city of universities, home to two highly renowned institutions of higher learning on the North Continent, it was mostly populated by students from various countries and regions. Beyond that, there were workers, as well as merchants and companies that were constantly developing and being introduced due to the city's increasing prosperity. And Tingen City, which had continuously developed since the emergence of the universities, had also perfected its political and economic systems over the long years. This city was quite prosperous, and quite, well, harmonious. So harmonious that he even wanted to do something here. But before doing any of that, I still need to properly complete that person's commission. Thinking of this, Lanelus unhurriedly took out a crystal-carved monocle from his pocket and put it on his left eye. He smiled at his reflection in a shop window, adjusting the position of his monocle, and did not see a figure wearing a black pointed soft hat behind him, also smiling and watching him. After adjusting the position of his monocle, Lanelus took out a note from his pocket. A string of addresses was written on the note. This was the gathering place for those foreign thieves. Because of the existence of Mr. Error, all unofficial thieves active in Tingen City needed to be more careful and cautious. Of course, these unofficial thieves, generally speaking, as long as they didn't commit any crimes, the official beyonders of the thief sequence were too lazy to arrest them. However, Lanelus was here with a mission, and if he were to do this, it would be far more than just a simple crime. And for his own purpose, he naturally needed some help. As for why he was operating against the wind, it was because the reward for this mission was given to him personally by that person, Immortal Divinity. Immortal Divinity, the door to crossing into the demigod human level. Sequence 4, Parasites Potion Formula and Corresponding Materials. Although Lanelus knew that something of such value would inevitably contain unimaginable dangers, as a wild Beander, seeing the opportunity to open the door to demigod human before him, he could not easily give up. After walking a short distance on the street, Lanelus locked onto his target. He smiled, and suddenly stepped forward. The carriage traveled on a smooth road, gradually moving away from Tingen City. Klein sat in the carriage, resting with his eyes closed. After telling Tang his concerns last night, the Diviner Club quickly sent him out, keeping him as far away from the center of the whirlpool as possible. Of course, before that, Klein met with an investigator from Miskatonic University, a Sequence 4 demigod. He guessed that it should be a demigod of the thief sequence. In the mysticism circle, there is a saying, the one who understands your abilities best is always a Beander of the same sequence as you, and the one who can suppress you in all aspects must be a Beander of the same sequence as you, and a higher sequence. Regarding the potential parasite on Leonard Mitchell, having a parasite from Miskatonic University come and take a look would largely rule out the suspicion of himself being parasite. Although Klein felt that, given the abilities displayed by the mysterious space above the gray mist, if something were to parasite him, he should be able to sense it and take appropriate action. As the carriage left Tingen City, the surroundings mostly changed from pedestrians to vehicles. Klein opened his eyes and took out a very thin pass from his jacket pocket, engraved with the Miskatonic University crest and seal. Tingen City Jurisdiction, Lambtown Pass. Due to protection regulations and Tingen City local area rules, only persons holding a pass signed by Miskatonic University may enter and exit this town. This was a mine near Tingen City, which continuously produced only one type of ore. Sunwell ore. Chapter 337, 336 Sunwell ore. Is this the raw Sunwell ore? Klein looked at an irregular, pale golden ore placed on the table, which continuously emitted light and heat just by existing. He then asked the middle-aged man beside him, who was wearing a shirt and shorts and had dark skin. The untreated Sunwell ore looked more like gold than ore, but it was a bit hot to the touch. So this is what the Sunwell ore looked like originally. Yes, the middle-aged man nodded honestly and said. However, these raw ores cannot be directly used. They possess a certain mysticism contamination. If not treated, it can easily cause irregular mutations in creatures exposed to the ore's light. Direct contact with raw Sunwell ore carries a contamination risk. Klein had never heard of this before. Ah, I'm sorry, Mr. Moretti. The middle-aged man scratched his head awkwardly, pointed to the raw Sunwell ore on the table, and smiled apologetically. I should have brought the treated ore. This one carries little contamination, and only after being with it for a long time will there be signs of auditory or visual hallucinations. If you don't mind, you can take this one directly. After all, it's raw ore, and it has a certain collection value. If you don't like it, I can exchange it for a well-treated one with some artistic value. No, this is fine. Klein didn't feel any danger and directly told the middle-aged man who had brought him there. Sunwell ore is now a household clean energy source in Tingen City. Compared to coal and gas, the energy produced by this cheap and efficient ore means that a standard-sized piece can power a lamp for nearly half a year. In the field of mysticism, Sunwell ore, which also symbolizes the sun, and is often used in exorcism and purification, is also used quite frequently. Most of the magical items on the market today with exorcism and purification functions, such as bullets and talismans, must contain Sunwell ore produced in Tingen City as a raw material. As for Sunwell ore, this clean, efficient, and highly productive mysticism mineral, the entire North Continent currently only has one vein discovered in the area around Tingen City. It was discovered, mined, and used by a Tingen City mayor 1,000 years ago. The mayor who discovered and mined the Sunwell ore was also the former actual owner of this land. He inherited his father, a baron's, territory, served in the army, and rapidly rose to become a powerful figure in the Ruined Kingdom. In his later years, he returned to his homeland and began to vigorously reform Tingen. This general and later mayor was also one of the founders of Khoi University and Tingen University, two renowned academic institutions. In the beginning, many people mutated and deformed because they didn't understand the characteristics of this ore, eventually losing control and turning into monsters due to the gradually accumulating reflections. The middle-aged man sighed helplessly, then smiled again. But in the end, the wise and mighty mayor found a way to solve this problem, and our town gradually prospered and flourished with the discovery of this mineral. After generations of modifications and improvements, the Sunwell ore unearthed from our town is now truly clean energy, suitable for the production and composition of all talismans and ritual magic involving the sun domain. The middle-aged man held sincere respect for the former mayor, and he also held the most genuine gratitude for the Sunwell ore, as well as pride in being able to work there. Because of the existence of Sunwell ore, the development of this town was far ahead of most towns in the Ruined Kingdom. It certainly looks that way. Klein processed what the middle-aged man said and combined it with what he already knew. In short, as the origin of the ore, the price of Sunwell ore in Tingen City is cheaper and more durable than energy sources like gas and coal. And Sunwell ore is unique to the North Continent. Whether economically, mystically, or militarily, the existence of Sunwell ore has extremely high strategic value. While it cannot be said that possessing such a vein makes one invincible, energy and talent are things that need to be controlled by the state. Not to mention the mines in the hands of nobles, the Sunwell ore vein is unique and possesses a considerable degree of mysticism value, applicable to many fields, and can be used as an efficient energy source. In the North Continent, where Beyonders can decide a war and dominate international affairs, such a thing also represents a powerful military threat. After all, no one wants to see a mine vein fly. Such a highly valuable item should have been directly taken over by the Ruined Kingdom, but the situation in Tingen City is special. The Tingen City and Miskatonic University, led by Mr. Error, had already completed the survey and control of this area before the Ruined Kingdom discovered Sunwell ore. This is a large mysticism mineral vein belonging exclusively to Tingen City. As for other nobles, and what Ruin thinks, who can offer an opinion to an angel king? Moreover, the formation of this vein has no relation to the Ruined Kingdom whatsoever. Currently, although the production of this ore is huge, due to direct supervision by Tingen City and Miskatonic, all mining, processing, and sale of these ores are conducted in an official capacity. Any private transaction of large quantities of Sunwell ore will be considered a crime. Klein's first reason for coming to Lomud town this time was to avoid the parasite on Leonard Mitchell, giving Miskatonic an opportunity to clear the anomalies within the Night Watchers. Rather than him dealing with the big trouble on Leonard Mitchell by himself, it was better to leave this anomaly to professionals. As for the second reason, the Diviner Club did give him a task concerning Lomud town. Although maintaining the safety and stability of the Sunwell mining area has always been Miskatonic's task, we've been very busy lately. I don't think it's a big problem. You can also help me see what's going on there, just consider it paid leave. Tang said this when he sent Klein out. Is Miskatonic that busy lately? Klein didn't take this matter to heart. There was a demigod stationed in Lamud town. If something truly major happened, it wouldn't be left to him. Moreover, if something really did happen, they wouldn't make a sequence 8 like him take the blame, would they? Humans cannot, or at least should not. Recently, the activity of the Sunwell mining area has increased. This was Klein's task this time, to investigate the reason for the increased activity of the Sunwell mining area. If he couldn't handle it, he was to report it to the demigod stationed there and let him deal with it. Klein connected this with what the middle-aged man who brought him in had just said. The raw Sunwell ore has a certain contamination before being treated, and the activity of the Sunwell ore in the mining area has increased recently. Does this mean that the contamination index of Sunwell ore has been continuously rising recently? The contamination Klein had recently encountered was from the evil god True Creator on the sealed artifact, Life I. Contamination, a concept that sounds very Cthulhu-esque, Klein knew would definitely not be a good thing, even without much understanding. All in all, it's better to understand the situation before drawing conclusions. If it's truly impossible, then leave it to the demigod here to handle. His main purpose was to stay away from Tingen City recently and avoid alarming the enemy. Even if the thing on Leonard Mitchell discovered someone spying on him, he might not connect it to Klein. By the time he realized that the person who had been spying on him was Klein, who had been reasonably transferred by the Diviner Club, Miskatonic would have already come to check his gas meter. Picking up the raw Sunwell ore from the table, which was said to be untreated and contained a certain degree of Sunwell contamination, and was an irregular cube, Klein stared at it for a moment. After not detecting any horrifying contamination, he used divination to confirm it again, and still saw nothing. It seems to be a small amount within a very safe range, but even if it doesn't affect me, it's still better not to take it home. After all, Benson and Melissa are still ordinary people, and I don't know what effect this thing will have on them. As for how Miskatonic and the people in this town deal with the contamination in these ores, Klein didn't know, nor was it something he should know. This undoubtedly involved the core secret of the entire town. If he were to inquire, an investigator might knock on his door the next second, checking if he was a spy sent by the Black Knight Church. After all, curiosity killed the cat, I understand that much. After exhaling, Klein walked out of the house. From a distance, he could see an ancient castle, glittering in the sunlight. That place was said to be the castle built by Ramde when he was alive, the actual ruler of this land, and later the residence of the Tingen City mayor who left the most profound mark in Tingen City's history. Currently, it has been protected and is considered the only historical site in this remote mining town. However, apart from maintenance personnel who enter and exit regularly, almost no one else goes there. Klein retracted his gaze from the huge ancient castle, his eyes slightly shifting. He turned his head and saw a young man standing not far away, also gazing at the ancient castle in the distance. He seemed to notice Klein's gaze and turned his body. Just as Klein was about to say something, his pupils slightly widened. In Klein's eyes, that figure seemed to be very far away just now, but in the next moment, he appeared beside him. Teleportation. Are you Klein Moretti? The young man who appeared beside him tilted his head slightly, examining the young man who had a scholarly demeanor and looked very amiable. Yes. Klein was startled by the person who suddenly appeared beside him, but he quickly realized the identity of the young man in front of him and stopped his instinctive defensive actions. This should be the demigod stationed here. This form of manifestation and ability might belong to a high sequence Beander of the student sequence. Seeing Klein nod, the young man looked Klein up and down. You look good. I am Aorsong Yabulahan, the general manager of Miskatonic for the Sunwell mining area. He extended his hand, and Klein politely shook it. Abraham. When Klein heard this surname, he instinctively recalled the mysticism knowledge he had crammed during his time with the Night Watchers. The Abraham family was a great noble family of the Fourth Epoch, mastering the student sequence. Although they had not revealed themselves much to outsiders since the Fifth Epoch, they were still not to be underestimated. A demigod from this family, it seems he is indeed a high sequence Beyander of the student sequence. I wonder what sequence he is and what the name of his potion is. Hello, Mr. Aorsong. As Klein shook hands, he greeted him politely, which was the proper respect for a demigod. Olsen asked, "Are you here to investigate the anomaly in the Sunwell mining area?" "Yes, Miskatonic seems very busy, and Mr. Val Monroe from the Diviner Club asked me to come and check the situation here." Olsen nodded almost imperceptibly again, and did not ask why a Sequence 8 clown was sent. He led Klein towards the Sunwell mining area. "Come with me, I'll take you into the mining area to have a look." "Okay." Klein quickly followed. They did not directly flash into the mining area as Olsen had demonstrated. Olsen led Klein quickly through the spirit world, emerging in a place far from the town. After that, they got on a rail mining cart and proceeded along the tracks. The area where the raw Sunwell ore is located itself has certain interferences and anomalies. All teleportation and Beyander abilities involving the spirit world are prohibited there, including divination. Moretti, please pay attention. All teleportation and Beyander abilities involving the spirit world, including divination, are prohibited. Klein did not ask why about this issue either. Although this high-ranking individual seemed very amiable, Klein still couldn't help but tense up slightly, feeling a bit nervous. Observe more, speak less, do more, this was his general guideline for this trip. Chapter 338, 337 Parasite. At the same time, Tingen City, 32 Red Rose Street, Blackthorn Security Company entrance. Two individuals, dressed in uniforms beneath black cloaks with large hoods pulled down, obscuring both their uniforms and most of their faces, exchanged glances. One then stepped forward and knocked on the Blackthorn Security Company's door. "Can I help you?" Luoshan, sitting at the reception desk on the first floor, looked up, curiously watching the two strangely dressed people enter the hall. "We're looking for Captain Dunn Smith," one of the newcomers said. "Looking for our captain, and specifically Captain Dunn, an acquaintance, or someone from another official extraordinary organization." Luoshan eyed the two suspiciously, still unsure, and asked again, "So, who are you?" "We are from Miskatonic University. We have some matters we wish to discuss with Captain Dunn Smith of the Night Watchers." Seeing Luoshan's apparent desire to probe further, the person in the black robe cleared his throat, revealing a corner of the uniform beneath the robe. The uniform was embroidered with a Miskatonic University emblem. Even Luoshan, who was not a Beyander, having been in Tingen City for so long and familiar with the intelligence of Tingen City's official extraordinary, could easily recognize what that emblem represented. Seeing this, she quickly said to the two black-robed individuals, "All right, the captain is upstairs. Do you need me to take you?" "No need, Miss Luoshan. We know the way. Also, you can leave work early today." Luoshan opened her mouth, and seeing that the two investigators had no intention of explaining after saying that, and had already walked up the stairs, she stepped out from behind the reception desk, went to the door that had been closed, opened it, and looked outside. "Today's street is so quiet," Luoshan mumbled to herself, still wondering what the person in black meant, and if he was joking with her, when a hand suddenly reached out from behind her and fully opened the half-closed door. Luoshan was startled. She looked back and saw that the person who opened the door was the same black-clothed individual from before. He had already packed a small bag for Luoshan and said softly, "Leave here quickly. Don't be nervous, nothing should happen." The unusually quiet outside, coupled with the sudden visit from the Miskatonic University investigators. Luoshan immediately had a bad feeling. She wanted to say something but hesitated, her expression gradually turning serious. She took the bag from the investigator's hand, her expression composed, and without checking if all her belongings were inside, she quickly left the Blackthorn Security Company. Leonard Mitchell, standing on the second floor, watched Luoshan's rapidly departing figure, then scanned his surroundings. After returning to his office chair, he unhurriedly took off the monocle he wore on his left eye, took out a cleaning cloth, and polished it until it gleamed. How interesting. If Tang Eggers only sent 2 parasites to deal with me, then I'd feel rather underestimated. After all, he had survived since the Third Epoch, a former Angel King. Even if this current clone only possessed Sequence 4 Beyonder characteristics, his status was still that of an angel, and the experience he possessed was something those later parasites could never catch up to in a short time. If it was just 2 parasites, Leonard felt he couldn't play out this act. But what he hadn't expected was, for this act, no, perhaps there were other reasons. Pales, you've come too. In a nearby cafe, Pales Zoroaster looked at the coffee cup in front of him, ripples gently undulating within it. This time Angel from ancient times, who didn't appear overly aged, seemed to notice the gaze from Eamon emanating from 32 Red Rose Street, inside the Blackthorn Security Company. He raised his head, glanced in that direction, then looked at Nicholas Flamel, who sat across from him wearing a black silk top hat. Your main body isn't in Tingen City. Yes. Nicholas smiled, directly admitting Pales's guess. Some matters require my attention in Intis. It's most suitable for you to handle the affairs here for now. Pales, hearing this, subtly asked, what kind of matter requires an Angel King to handle personally? Nicola picked up the cup on the table and took a small sip of coffee. It's somewhat related to the future. It's better for Mr. Zoroaster not to inquire too deeply. Involving the Ring of Destiny and the High-Dimensional Overseer, such matters are naturally better known by as few people as possible. And Pales would absolutely not get involved with anything related to the future. After all, he had witnessed how terrifying that thing was. Pales was silent for a moment, then changed the subject, asking, an Eamon clone infiltrated the Night Watchers. This shouldn't be a coincidence, should it? As a Sequence 1 Archangel of the Thief Pathway, Pales didn't believe that his own Sequence's Angel King would have no awareness of Eamon, a clone not even an angel, hiding in Tingen City. And this indirectly indicated that Nicola, or Tang, did it intentionally. He wanted to use Eamon for something. Perhaps. Nicola put down his coffee cup and smiled. So, next, I'd like to invite Mr. Zoroaster to watch a good show. A good show. Pales chuckled. What's it about? If it's a puppet show, I'll be greatly disappointed. After all, he had seen many of Tang Eggers' strange self-directed puppet shows. So many years had passed, and he had never seen this type of cryptic servant. More bizarre than old Zarathus and Antigonus. If the Lord of the Mysteries was this kind of person. Pales quickly stopped his thoughts. Oh no, he wanted to live a few more years. If compared like that, letting celestial worthy come back to life might not be so hard to accept. Nicola didn't seem to notice Pales's distraction. He explained, a slight smile playing on his lips, revealing a slightly strange and eerie grin. It should be more exciting than that. For example, Pales initially didn't think much of it, but the more he listened, the stranger his expression became, tinged with speechlessness and exasperation. I never thought my old bones would live to see such a spectacle. Didn't Rosal also want to do something similar back then? Unfortunately, Rosal didn't succeed in the end, Nicholas said, looking in the direction of the Blackthorn Security Company. It should happen within the next 2 or 3 years, Mr. Zoroaster. The apocalypse is approaching, and the stage has long been set. As one of the audience, I also hope there will be no unforeseen changes during this time. He plans to make you an heir. Pales tilted his head to look at Nicola and asked. Yes. Nicola nodded. At that time, I will give you the second portion of the Time Worm's Beyonder characteristics. There's no rush for that. Pales sighed. Although I was fooled by that kid before and lived such a comfortable life for so long, it's made me lose interest in vying for that position. After the threat of Eamon was gone, he actually had no more thoughts about becoming an Angel King. Sequence 1 was still quite good, not many twists and turns, and he didn't have to be like Tang Eggers, who looked like he had 800 evil intentions all over his body. Always calculating this and that, wasn't it tiring? 32 Red Rose Street, Blackthorn Security Company. When Dunn Smith knocked on Leonard Mitchell's office door, Leonard was polishing his monocle, with his feet propped on the desk, looking very leisurely, showing no sign of impending doom. As Dunn Smith pushed the door open, Leonard put the polished monocle on his left eye. He lowered his legs from the table and smiled at Dunn Smith, who was walking in front, and the two people in black cloaks and uniforms following behind him, asking, "Captain, is there something you need?" Leonard asked with a smile, looking only slightly surprised and strange, with no other emotions. Dunn, upon entering this office he hadn't stepped into for quite some time, instinctively scanned the room. Seeing nothing strange, he finally focused his gaze on Leonard, who had now stood up. "Leonard." His voice was solemn, and he asked directly, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" "Anything I want to tell you." Leonard opened his mouth, a bit confused. When he noticed the people who followed Dunn into the office taking off their hoods, revealing two very unfamiliar faces, a strange smile suddenly appeared on his face. "Ah, now that you mention it, there is indeed one thing I've always wanted to talk to you about, Captain," he said, stepping out from behind the desk and standing in front of Dunn. One of the black-robed individuals who had been standing behind Dunn suddenly stepped forward, blocking the space between Dunn and Leonard. "It's confirmed." The other black-robed individual looked at Leonard and spoke with a heavy voice. "He has been parasited, a deep-level parasite state. It's unclear if his thoughts and consciousness have been hollowed out by the time worm. If the soul was hollowed out by the time worm, then even if the parasite lifted the deep-level parasite, it would be useless." "Oh, you've already found out." Leonard pinched the monocle in his left eye, the smile on his lips widening. "I thought I had been hiding it very well. How did you find out?" Let me guess, Klein didn't come to work today." "Actually, I always thought there was something strange about Klein Moretti. Logically speaking, after encountering the indiscriminate murder event of the Antigonus family notebook, he should have died like the other two. That was the end of destiny I saw." At this point, Leonard paused slightly, the smile on his lips growing wider and wider. The two parasites immediately became vigilant. "Strange, you all want to hear the rest. As a parasite, you shouldn't be considering." Before he could finish his sentence, the expression of the Miskatonic University parasite who was blocking Leonard and Dunn suddenly changed. "Grab him. This guy is stalling for time." From Leonard's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, one segment-bodied worm after another suddenly appeared. Dunn instinctively closed his eyes. As a Sequence 6 soul man, he quickly retreated, leaving the battlefield to the two Miskatonic University demigods by his side. As Leonard displayed the mythical creature form of the thief pathway, one time worm after another also crawled out from the two Miskatonic University thief pathway demigods. At the same time, the walls, floor, and ceiling here, with a certain switch activated, revealed transparent, shimmering patterns, one after another. Ritual magic. Leonard looked at the rapidly spreading ritual magic on the walls with some surprise. As a former top cryptographer, he quickly deciphered the information he needed from these patterns. Foreigner mystery weakening, warning, blockade, lightning attraction. From attack to blockade, from external to internal, the various nested ritual magic patterns were complex and diverse, leaving Leonard dumbfounded. "I didn't expect this," he chuckled. "I originally thought 2 to 3 nested sets would be enough, but I didn't expect so many things to be hidden." After Rosal's death, the Knowledge Emperor Beander characteristics that Guy recovered seemed to be highly compatible with the Knowledge Wilderness. It's hard to say if the god of craftsmen can even sleep at night. However, this set of ritual magic, in essence, still has a fatal flaw. Leonard remained calm under the siege of the two parasites. His figure suddenly twisted, slipping past the two parasites, respective stealing actions, and arrived at the door. The door was now closed, complex patterns isolating the inside from the outside, sealing and blocking all things within and without. There is no perfect thing in this world. Everything has the most fundamental loopholes and errors that we can use. Leonard reached out his hand, pressed the doorknob, and pushed outwards. Is Leonard Mitchell, of the Night Watchers. He is naturally an object that needs the protection of this ritual magic spread throughout the Blackthorn Security Company. After saying this, he showed a new expression to Dunn Smith, who was standing at the door and had already begun to try to pull him into a dream. It was an expression of confusion, pain, annoyance, and helplessness. He mumbled, his lips trembling, and softly called out, "Captain." Leonard. Dunn was startled, just realizing that Leonard had already appeared in front of him. "Yes, aren't I Leonard Mitchell?" A black pointed soft hat was placed on Leonard's head. He pushed his monocle and said with a smile. Dunn couldn't help but take a step back when he saw Leonard effortlessly step out of the room sealed by ritual magic. Leonard's expression remained unchanged, as if that smile was welded to his face. All his usual abnormal behaviors and actions flashed rapidly through Dunn's mind, and then his face turned grim. "I learned this trick from that person. How about it? Isn't it interesting? Implanting time worms through memory, cognition, and consciousness is essentially no different from using mad knowledge to turn the opponent into a puppet of fate. Both are high-level, high-tier applications of certain abilities." The Leonard in Dunn's mind was replaced by a young man wearing a black pointed soft hat and a magic robe of the same color. Like Leonard, the young man wore a crystal monocle in his left eye socket. That was the Angel King of the former Thief sequence. As the highest-ranking Beander of the Night Watchers in Tingen City, Dunn was qualified to understand the general situation of the two sequences above the demigod level mastered by Miskatonic University. This also included what Mr. Error had done. He recovered the Sequence 1 Beander characteristics from the defeated blasphemer Amon, becoming the highest-ranking individual of his sequence. But this did not indicate that Amon was dead. He invaded Tingen City in another way, attempting to do something to Mr. Error in Tingen City. Just as Dunn realized that the thing on his team member, Leonard, was likely Amon, his expression froze again. He reached into the void beside him, and a crystal-carved monocle appeared in his hand. He had been parasited by a parasite. Damn it! Dunn's heart jolted. He instinctively wanted to throw away the monocle, but it seemed to be stuck to his hand. No matter how he shook it, the monocle could not leave his palm. The smile on Leonard's lips never changed, and a strange light flickered in his eyes behind the monocle. Then, "Captain, please, properly." Before he could finish speaking, the two Miskatonic parasites behind him had already opened the sealed door and caught up. Seeing Leonard about to attack Dunn Smith, the captain of the Tingen City Night Watchers, the parasite who had reached the range where their Beander abilities could be used first raised his hand. "Amon, don't even think about causing trouble." He made a stealing gesture, aiming to separate Amon from Dunn and interrupt the opponent's stealing and parasite. On Dunn's body, several time worms with 12 segments struggled out of his spirit body, were seized by the parasite, and directly crushed. The Beander characteristics inherent in the crushed time worms did not return to the main body according to the Beander characteristic aggregation law. Instead, time worms continuously emerged from the parasite's body. The parasite from Miskatonic fully revealed his incomplete mythical creature form, reversely manipulating Amon's time worms stolen from Dunn, and confiscating the opponent's Beander characteristics. Leonard glanced at the two parasites who had rushed out of the office and were following him. Although not very useful, they could cause him a lot of trouble in these matters. The surrounding clones aren't here either. That ritual magic isolated the entire building from the outside. Even a cryptologist would need some time to reverse engineer it to get out, so. He squeezed the monocle, and it immediately lit up. The former blasphemer shrugged. "All right, since you're so willing, I'll give you something good. After all, why should I be the only one to enjoy this?" The two Miskatonic parasites, along with Dunn Smith, who had just recovered from his parasited state, immediately felt a sense of dread. The next moment, a dim, mad black sun suddenly burst forth from Leonard's monocle. The two parasites, along with Dunn Smith, who had not yet retreated to a safe area, were instantly enveloped by the dark, heavy light, like the ultimate destination of all fallen things. Beander characteristics are not the only standard for judging a Beander's ability. Leonard's smiling voice echoed within Blackthorn Security Company, just like me and you. Why do you think you can easily deal with me at the same level? You only rely on those, ritual magic, and you too sequence 4 parasites. Mr. Error's main body isn't in Tingen City. Attacking me at this time is not a wise choice. The bodies of the 2 miskatonic parasites tensed up, and their expressions changed. Their time worms were going mad. Get out, don't come near here. One of the parasites grabbed Dunn's shoulder and threw him backward. With Eamon easily exploiting the protective loopholes in the ritual magic, Dunn Smith, a Sequence 6, was no longer safe in the center of the battlefield. They had thought Eamon would at most be a Sequence 4 clone here, easily dealt with in conjunction with the ritual magic Miskatonic had set up. But as expected, such an ancient being, having survived since the Third Epoch, a great figure with various legendary colors, even if only a clone at their same level, was still a huge threat within the same sequence. Madness spread. The fallen sun, the defiled sun, the mad sun, caused the already unstable time worms, each and every one, to begin to develop their own sentience, attempting to replace the main body. This is one of the symbols of the Black Sun, defilement and degeneration, causing all things to fall into the shared degenerate self-confidence of all living beings. The ritual magic maintaining the internal environment of Blackthorn Security Company reacted instinctively at this moment. In the world enveloped by the Black Sun, the warm light of a normal sun suddenly appeared. That bright light attempted to dispel the black, fallen sun, but soon, even the ritual magic itself suffered fatal contamination. The Black Sun released by Leonard suppressed the light generated by the ritual magic's automatic response in terms of status and ability. He adjusted his monocle, then casually prepared to leave and find another place to hide. If he escaped because these guys were not strong enough, then that guy shouldn't have any reason to target him. After all, it was his own people who were incompetent. Leonard walked down the stairs, and just as he reached the first floor, in the world enveloped by the Black Sun, a bell sound suddenly echoed, seemingly originating from ancient history, from the very source of time. Dong. Leonard slightly raised his eyelids, squeezed his monocle, sighed, and said regretfully, "All right." It seemed that even if he dealt with those 2 parasites, that guy wouldn't let him go. The door opened from the outside, and Pale's Zoroaster stood at the doorway, looking at Eamon, who was parasited on Leonard, against the Black Sun. Eamon. Pales, it's been a long time. Leonard's lips instinctively curled up, then he suddenly convulsed and fell to the ground. Time worms, each with 12 segments, emerged from Leonard's body one after another, rapidly flying into a huge, ancient, mottled clock that had appeared in midair at some unknown time. The chimes, seemingly from the most ancient times, continuously echoed. The damaged ritual magic, the affected parasites, everything within this range, all things were rapidly reversing. It really is, not giving me any face at all. Amon's figure quickly disappeared, and the dark surroundings rapidly receded. Pales scanned the interior situation, and after seeing that there were no problems, he looked at the 2 parasites who were rapidly descending the stairs after escaping the Black Sun's embrace. The 2 parasites, upon seeing Pale's Zoroaster, felt a bit ashamed. "Sorry, Mr. Zoroaster, we didn't stop Eamon." Pales shook his head and said in a deep voice, "It's not your fault. It's normal not to be Amon's opponent. You are still too young. He is an old monster who has lived for an unknown amount of time, with far more experience than you." Yes. The 2 parasites, who had been released to practice against Eamon one-on-one, could only grit their teeth, preparing to go back and stab Amon's effigy to vent the humiliation they had suffered today. "Ah, Mr. Flammel, please kill Eamon. I'll leave the matters here to you. As for this child." Pales glanced at Leonard on the ground, and said in a low, emotionless voice, "Send him to St. Peter's. They will have a way to solve his problem." The next day, Tingen City, St. Peter's Hospital. When Leonard woke up, the first thing he smelled was the usual pungent disinfectant odor of the hospital. This is. He stared blankly at the snow-white ceiling above, opened his mouth, and licked his dry lips, momentarily unable to distinguish whether this was a dream or reality. He only felt that he had had a very long dream, but what else was in the dream? His mind was a blur, and he couldn't distinguish anything for a while. You're finally awake. The young man in the ward noticed Leonard's awakening and took a few steps forward. Leonard saw his appearance. You are Klein's friend. Yes, I am Tang Eggers, and also one of Miskatonic University's investigators, Mr. Leonard Mitchell. The young man smiled at Leonard and said, I know you're wondering where you are and why you're here. To make a long story short, this is St. Peter's Hospital. You just had a major operation because of what I'm about to tell you, and you need to rest as much as possible, but we must clarify some things. His expression gradually became serious, because this is not only for yourself, but also for the safety of the entire Tingen city. Major operation. Leonard got up with some difficulty and looked around. This was a standard ward at St. Peter's Hospital, which he was very familiar with. Most official Beyonders were sent here after being injured. After all, St. Peter's Hospital, as a comprehensive treatment hospital, was also quite authoritative in treating illnesses and injuries related to mysticism. Official Beyonders had a dedicated ward floor at St. Peter's, and he often came here to visit patients. The only thing that surprised Leonard was that there seemed to be someone guarding outside his ward. What happened to me? Why did I need a major operation? Leonard's memories were a bit confused, with many disconnected images filling his mind. Because he couldn't find a specific line to connect these images, all the images looked strange and abstract, with a sense of eeriness. You were parasited by an external parasite. Tang said, think carefully, did you encounter something a few years ago? Leonard's somewhat stalled brain began to turn slightly at Tang's prompt. After a while, he said with great difficulty, there was indeed such a thing. In the Backland Diocese, during a Black Knight Church mission to investigate whether Wild Beyonders were cultists, you encountered a strange thief. Tang picked up a file from a nearby table, opened it, and looking at the contents written on it, said, after that, you gained something on you that called itself a system, right? Leonard looked at Tang, remained silent for a few seconds, then asked in a somewhat hoarse voice, you already know. Yes, but it's also very normal. Parasites themselves are difficult to detect, and the parasite who parasited you is also a master at manipulating people's minds. It's very normal for Beyonders of low sequence to experience such a thing when encountering this kind of situation. Tang nodded and put down the file in his hand. Also, Mr. Mitchell, your major operation was thanks to Mr. Error. Otherwise, guess what would be left of your brain after being parasited by a high-level parasite? It would probably be the fate of having all thoughts, memories, and even destiny devoured. If the sequences were adjacent, not even the Beyonder characteristics would remain. We slightly readjusted and reassembled the thoughts, memories, and destiny that were recovered after killing that parasite. It should be quite chaotic, but we also have a solution here. You should be able to hear it. Dear host, the Thought Island system will wholeheartedly serve you for the foreseeable future. Seeing Leonard's horrified expression, Tang stood up and said with some admonition. Don't casually accept strange systems in daily life. Who knows if those things are real systems or some parasite in disguise. He clicked his tongue twice, and said with a hint of emotion, after all, parasites like nothing more than deceiving others and making them willingly become their nourishment, don't they? Chapter 340, 339 Thief. Tingen City, Red Rose Street. Leonard Wuxi, standing in the jewelry store and carefully selecting the accessories he needed for the evening, tilted his head slightly to look at a building not far away. That building was very quiet. In fact, it had been very quiet ever since he arrived. No one came out, and no one went in. It was like an independent world shielded from the entire space. No matter from what angle one looked, it was pitch black inside, with no people and no movement. Leonard Wuxi knew that a terrifying struggle was taking place inside. How interesting, he pinched the monocle over his left eye, then, as if thinking of something even more amusing, his lips curved into a gentle yet somewhat mystic smile. The customers around him did not notice what was hidden behind that smile, and Leonard Wuxi quickly adjusted his expression. After all, the matter was not yet finished, and he could not expose himself here. Please wrap this up. Yes, sir. The attendant took the necklace and ring Linerwusi had chosen and packaged them. Soon, Linerwusi emerged from the jewelry store, holding a beautifully decorated gift box. The sky outside the shop was still clear and spotless. The scent of bread wafted through the air, and people came and went on the street. Everything was so simple and filled with a false sense of happiness. He no longer looked at the unremarkable building and left Red Rose Street directly, preparing for the evening's events. Things are getting more and more interesting. I hope that what is about to happen next won't disappoint me. So first, he should contact those few from the Aurora Order and have that one descend. As he thought about what was about to happen and what he was about to gain, the curve of Linerwusi's lips grew wider and wider. I'm looking forward to it, he whispered to himself. Passing a mirror, the Linerwusi in the reflection had unknowingly put on a black pointed soft hat and smiled at the bustling yet incredibly false street. Me too. The Sunwell ore mining area was resplendent. Even with protective goggles on, Klein's eyes still felt sore after he came out. It was too dazzling. The unprocessed ores inside, when connected, created light pollution almost equivalent to staring directly at the sun during a scorching midday. The Sunwell mining area consisted of a continuous mountain range and a huge pit that seemed to connect to the Earth's core. In that area, apart from the workers wearing special protective suits, there were no traces of birds, beasts, insects, or ants. It was too dazzling, too hot. Even after only staying for a very short time, Klein felt his skin tone had deepened by a shade. Drop this in. It can effectively alleviate the vision problems caused by Sunwell ore. Although we are basically unharmed under the protection of ritual magic, the eye fatigue caused by looking directly at those things also needs to be taken seriously. Olsen reached into his pocket and took out a bottle of liquid in an opaque brown glass bottle for Klein. Klein thanked him, took it, rubbed his eyes, and dripped the transparent liquid from the small bottle into his eyes. After the liquid dropped into his eyes, Klein felt the stinging pain in his eyes significantly lessen not long after. Indeed, the activity of the Sunwell ore has increased recently. Olsen lowered his head in thought, considering whether there were other mysticism factors influencing this. Klein waited for the medicine to take effect while also waiting for Olsen Yabulahan, this demigod, to give his opinion so he could report back. However, this fluctuation is normal. Sunwell ore, as a mysticism item, inherently possesses a certain, living, characteristic. It's not uncommon to detect fluctuating pollution levels in unprocessed mine tunnels. It seems like a very normal phenomenon. Klein said. Yes, Olsen said casually. In previous years, the highest fluctuation amplitude of this thing was much stronger than it is now. At that time, even demigods dared not easily enter that area, as they would be severely polluted and might go mad and lose control as soon as they came out. This thing, Klein slightly organized his words, and just as he was about to say something, an inspiration suddenly struck him, a flash of insight that quickly passed. And as a clown who had fully digested the diviner potion, Klein seized the flash of inspiration his spirituality had just given him. Mr. Abraham, when did this, I mean, the activity of the Sunwell ore, start to show this phenomenon? Let me think, Olsen pondered for a moment. When Miskatonic noticed it, it was probably about a month ago. I'm not very familiar with this area. After all, the activity fluctuation of Sunwell ore is a fairly normal phenomenon, and we didn't pay attention at the time. About a month ago. At that time, he remembered something else happened. Something related to the Sunwell. Although the matter was small, so small that both Miskatonic and the Night Watchers only briefly mentioned it, Klein still sensed some abnormality and strangeness. This might be related to the mystic space above the gray mist, allowing him to always gain extraordinary inspiration and divination abilities at certain moments. Do you remember, a thief who was sent here and then fell into the Sunwell? Thief? Olsen was startled. He quickly received a hint from his spirituality and realized who Klein was referring to. You mean that kid who was sent here to dig for ore because of theft? The thief who tried to steal a wallet from Tang in front of Khoi University a while ago was later confirmed to be a marionette in the hands of a marionettist after a series of events. When Klein received the revelation and realized that someone in Khoi City had become a marionette and was trying to do something, he and several others, who were also targeted due to Klein's dream divination, were silenced and confirmed dead. Although the trickster, who was controlling the marionette and whose organization was unknown, had now been dealt with by Miskatonic, no one knew exactly what the other party had done. Yes, I heard Tang say that the thief later fell into the Sunwell mine, was polluted, and assimilated into a part of the Sunwell ore. Now that you mention it, indeed, there was such an incident. Olsen pondered for a few seconds, his brows slightly furrowed. You mean, there's still that kid's problem in this matter? His fall into the Sunwell mine pit might not have been accidental. What that marionette, sent to Lamb Town, did before he died, and what happened after his body was assimilated by the Sunwell ore in this area, was also unknown in the absence of a divination medium. Everything was slowly and unnoticeably developing and growing within a coincidental secrecy. Klein could not be certain of his guess, but as a Beyander of the diviner pathway, skilled in divination and gaining inspiration from the spirit world, Klein's recent flash of insight connected this information with the abnormal increase in activity in the Sunwell mine. Is it related to an outsider? What could throwing a marionette in here do? Surely it's not to detonate the Sunwell ore in this area with a marionette. Olsen's wild speculation made Klein's expression stiffen. Imagine that scene, imagine the terrifying amount of Sunwell ore buried in this mining area. An equivalent that could directly send the entire Khoi city into the sky. Heh, just kidding. Such a thing is impossible. Seeing Klein so frightened, Olsen smiled. Young man, don't be so easily scared. If Khoi City's defenses are impregnable, then the defenses of this area will only be stronger than impregnable. After all, what's buried beneath this area is something extraordinary. It is indeed something extraordinary. After resting for a night and sending the person away, Olsen looked at the historical void image belonging to Tang that he had recorded. So, it's already ending. The first act, perhaps. Tang sat on a stool, resting his chin on his hands, looking out the window at the mountains of Sunwell ore. After all, cultivating a qualified Lord of the Mysteries is not an easy task, especially now, when the birth of the Lord of the Mysteries will inevitably cause those guys lurking outside to go mad. Tisk, I know without you telling me, but I'm really a bit curious, Tang. Olsen asked curiously, why do you insist on someone else becoming the Lord of the Mysteries? Wouldn't it be better if you did it yourself? The pinnacle of the three mystic pathways. To this day, he had come to know quite a lot about the angels and archangels of these three pathways, their experiences, or 0 inches class sealed artifacts of the same level. He had also seen many and understood the various insane things that those terrifying sealed artifacts, capable of destroying a country, could create when polluted or in extremely special environments. But honestly, Olsen felt that no one could embody the meaning symbolized by the word mystic better than Tang. This guy was already beyond devious. Sometimes Olsen would dream of this guy telling him, "What do you think of the puppet show I made? Realistic enough, right? Actually, I was just tricking you." Such outrageous words. Tang chuckled twice, his expression benevolent. Little Olsen, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. If I tell you later, you'll be unhappy again. You don't say. How do you know you'll be unhappy, right? Tang pouted, you'll know what happens then. I hope you won't be too surprised to the point where your jaw drops to the floor. Olsen. He had a bad premonition. He wasn't sure, he'd find another opportunity to ask later. Oh, by the way, you mentioned a surprise to me before. What is it? How should I put it? Tang propped his cheek, asking, Olsen, do you want to meet your charming ancestor? Charming ancestor. Olsen. Ah. When Klein returned to Khoi City, Dunn came to pick him up. You did very well, Dunn said to Klein while rubbing his temples. Before the investigators from Miskatonic came, we didn't notice that Leonard had a problem. If you had told me about this earlier, it's very likely that the entire Night Watchers team would have died because of it. In fact, if it were up to Dunn to decide, he would also report this matter to Miskatonic. After all, Miskatonic was the greatest power in this city. Whether it was reporting to the Church of the Backland Diocese, requesting aid from a demigod, or other alternative solutions, none were as direct and effective as doing this. The infiltration of the Night Watchers by outsiders has sounded the alarm for Tingen City. Tingen City has already activated emergency plans, and all official extraordinary organizations stationed in Tingen City by the Church need to undergo a series of screenings to guard against possible problems. This seems a bit too serious, doesn't it? Klein asked with some concern. What exactly happened? I only know that Leonard had some abnormalities, and it had some connection to that 2 feet class sealed artifact you gave me before, Captain. Yes, Dunn said, clearly even more troubled when he heard Klein mention this. This matter is somewhat related to Mr. Error in Tingen City and needs to be traced back to 1,000 years ago. Klein had heard Tang mention this before. Mr. Error was currently not in Tingen City, and Dunn had also received confirmation from Miskatonic that there seemed to be a very important matter in another country that required Mr. Error to handle personally, so he probably wouldn't be back for a short time. And Klein also heard a new word from Dunn. Blasphemer. Amen. Blasphemer. An angel claiming to be a blasphemer. Because high-level beyonders of the thief pathway can steal the authority of gods. Klein began to brainstorm. You can check the specific information in Miskatonic's library, there should be corresponding records there. As for how you can enter Miskatonic. Dunn was silent for a moment, then said, actually, many official extraordinary have part-time positions at Miskatonic, but... Captain, but what? It's very dangerous. Dunn said, extremely dangerous. The death rate of investigators at Miskatonic is the highest among all official extraordinary organizations. Even demigods above Sequence 4 cannot guarantee absolute safety. They often face not only terrifying and mystic-sealed artifacts but also many lunatics who worship evil gods, and even involve the gods themselves. Think about it when you go back, Klein. You don't need to make a decision so quickly. Chapter 341, 340 Alive or Dead. When it came to anything related to Miskatonic University, the best person to ask was naturally Tang Eggers, Klein's friend. We already know about the situation at Sunwell. Mr. Abraham has reported your conjectures and possible circumstances to the university. Outside Tingen University, in a corner of an inconspicuous cafe on a bustling street. The waiter brought over the drinks they ordered, along with the chocolate cake Tang recommended. This is a specialty of this cafe. Try it, it tastes really good. Tang picked up the coffee with a lot of sugar in front of him, took a sip, then picked up the small black chocolate cake and began cutting it with a fork. Klein also picked up his cup, using the bitter taste of the coffee to stimulate his thoughts. It does taste good. It was just a bit too bitter. Right, my dad always says drinking too much of this will cause insomnia at night. Tang put down the plate with the cake and began to talk about serious matters. As for investigators, just as your Captain Smith said, the death rate in this profession is not lower than that of official beyonders. So, you don't necessarily have to join. If you just want to look up information, I can try to get you a pass, take up a spot at Khoi University, and enter Miskatonic. In Tingen City, Tingen University and Khoi University, these two institutions of higher learning, the former recruits people not on the mysticism side, while the latter recruits wild beyonders and official beyonders. One aims to cultivate talent in the scientific field, while the other aims to cultivate talent in mysticism. Of course, these two sometimes have interchangeable courses. Students from Khoi University sometimes come to Tingen University, but students from Tingen University generally do not go to Khoi University. After all, people who exist in the materialistic world do not need to delve deeply into the irrational mystical world. Of course, strictly speaking, unless under special circumstances, one does indeed need to become an investigator to enter the Miskatonic University library. According to the rules, if it's not allowed, it means it is allowed. If it's allowed, it means it's not allowed. Okay, As a corporate slave from before his transmigration, Klein had already mastered this art of speaking. So, it seems I need to pull some strings. Klein picked up a small cake from the table and took a bite. Compared to the bitterness of coffee, the sweetness of the cake was better, just like the cakes Klein occasionally craved and bought from bakeries before his transmigration. Thanks to the changes brought by the transmigrator seniors, he wouldn't even be able to eat something delicious in this different world. After all, Miskatonic's security has always been very strict. Alright, I'll give you the pass in a couple of days. Of course, if you really want to join the investigator team, you don't need to go through all this trouble, you can completely enter through official channels. Tang smiled. Your captain is right, you should definitely consider something like this for a while. As for the bill for this meal, you pay for it. How about that as my reward? Klein was a little surprised. That's it. Tang said, holding his coffee cup and eating cake. What else? Do you want me to offer you 100 gold pounds to pull some strings for you? Klein chuckled awkwardly, then said seriously, if there's anything you need help with in the future, you can tell me. Tang waved his hand. Alright, Mr. Clown, you should prepare to see when you can advance to magician. But I guess when that time comes, if I ask you for a small favor, you'll probably be unwilling again. The next day, during Monday afternoon's Tarot Club, Klein introduced the new member, Mr. Sun, to Miss Justice and Mr. Hanged Man. Mr. Error, on the other hand, introduced the new member, Mr. Strength, to Miss Justice Audrey Hall and Mr. Hanged Man Alger Wilson. This is Mr. Strength. Within the mysterious space above the gray mist, Mr. Error sat at the head of the bronze long table, leaning back in his high-backed chair, elegantly overlooking everyone in the Tarot Club. Under the elegant and composed introduction of this figure, who looked down from above like a deity, Miss Justice Audrey looked towards Mr. Strength, who was seated beside Mr. Hanged Man. Due to the obstruction of the gray mist, she could only vaguely discern his attire. Not like the daily clothing of the North Continent countries. A South Continent person. Noticing Miss Justice's scrutinizing gaze, Mr. Strength Galbraith also subtly observed the two people brought up by Error. A Sequence 9 spectator, a Sequence 7 storm blessed. Sequence 7 of the Sailor Sequence, known as Navigator in modern times, and Storm Blessed in ancient times. Too weak, insignificant, not enough to be a part of the plan, so they were allowed to grow wildly, perhaps. Perhaps, it is an opportunity. Mr. Error glanced at Mr. Strength Galbraith, still maintaining that lofty demeanor. Not joining, not participating, only observing. All matters, except for what Mr. Fool Klein said and did, and some special events, Mr. Error generally would not synchronize the events happening in that tarot club with this tarot club. After all, it's a ritual for the final advancement to Sequence 0. The general situation needs to be synchronized. Otherwise, when it comes to this mysterious space above the gray mist, the authority of Error and Loophole would not be easy to exercise. Not young, very steady, and very cold, it's like he's been isolated from his surroundings for a long time, always alone. As a spectator, Miss Justice Audrey could only extract these external pieces of information from Mr. Strength. But from her intuitive feeling, this person, brought into this gray mist by Mr. Error, should be extremely powerful. As for the other party's sequence, and so on, unless this mature and experienced Beander revealed something himself, Audrey felt that even if she became a Sequence 8 mind reader, she wouldn't be able to read Mr. Strength's inner thoughts. In Mr. Hanged Man Alger Wilson's mind, there was a similar thought. Very, very powerful. Experienced, mysterious, like a warrior who has fought monsters for thousands of years. As a pirate, floating on the sea, Mr. Hanged Man Alger subconsciously avoided the other party's gaze when their eyes swept over him. Perhaps a demigod. Even the experienced Mr. Hanged Man Alger couldn't help but gasp in his heart. Of course, upon learning that Mr. Error was the organizer of this tarot club above the gray mist, he had already anticipated the appearance of a demigod here. After all, Mr. Error himself was an extremely powerful existence, and those who could catch his eye, apart from these experimental subjects who could be called guinea pigs, were Mr. Eyre's trusted aides, or individuals with special circumstances. Amidst his surging thoughts, Mr. Hanged Man Alger had already prepared himself mentally and felt more confident about what he was about to say. After Audrey and Alger submitted some of Rosal the Great's late-life diaries to Mr. Eyre, Mr. Hanged Man Alger looked towards Miss Justice Audrey and Mr. Strength Gale Bray. "I have a commission." "Mr. Hanged Man, what is your commission?" Miss Justice Audrey asked curiously. Mr. Hanged Man Alger spoke the draft he had already prepared. "I received intelligence that the great pirate Keelingus, known as Vice Admiral Hurricane, on the Five Seas, recently secretly came ashore and infiltrated Backland. I don't know what he intends to do." Vice Admiral Hurricane, Keelingus. The Vice Admiral Hurricane, who is one of the 7 pirate generals. Audrey's eyes widened slightly. Hearing this news, she almost couldn't maintain her spectator state. This was a big shot on the 5 Seas. Ah, of course, Audrey quickly adjusted her emotions. This was Mr. Eyre's domain. Just a pirate general? No, Audrey couldn't help but think. When could she add the prefix, just, to a pirate general? Audrey, you must understand that you are still weak in the Beander world. The powerful one is Mr. Eyre, not you. As a spectator, after quickly adjusting her emotions, Miss Justice Audrey continued to listen to what Mr. Hanged Man was saying. Yes, he is also a Sequence 6 Beander Storm Blessed of the Sailor Sequence, possesses a magical item, and has a rather cunning and cruel personality. Alger solemnly introduced him to Miss Justice. As for Mr. Eyre, and Mr. Strength, whose details were unclear but who was clearly very powerful, he presumably did not need to introduce them. To these true big shots, Vice Admiral Hurricane, Keelingus was merely an ant that could be casually played with and killed, just as they were to Mr. Eyre. Vice Admiral Hurricane, Keelingus, even with that sealed artifact, was nothing more than a chess piece that these truly existing big shots could kill, abandon, and play with at any time. Seemingly sensing Mr. Hanged Man Alger's gaze, Mr. Eyre detached himself from his state of examining Rosal's diary in his hand and looked at the figures on either side of the bronze long table. Keelingus, huh? This ancient angel lowered his eyes, seemingly recalling this insignificant figure from some forgotten corner of his memory. Yes, Mr. Eyre. Mr. Hanged Man Alger himself didn't expect such an insignificant figure to have ever caught Mr. Eyre's attention. He only hoped that Mr. Eyre could provide some assistance in certain situations. For example, by chanting his honorific name to gain his attention and receive protection for a short period. This was something familiar to the investigators of Miskatonic University. Mr. Eyre's honorific name could be responded to worldwide, but in most cases, Beyonders who were not investigators would not have a good outcome when chanting this honorific name. Chanting the honorific name equals seeking death, but perhaps, when facing certain death, when one's own worshipped deity cannot respond, invoking this name might yield unexpected results. Such as dragging others down with you. Mr. Hanged Man Alger wanted a powerful insurance for his plan to eliminate Vice Admiral Hurricane Keelingus. And this insurance, ideally, would be the highest-ranking individual he could currently directly contact. Indeed, Mr. Eyre's lips curved slightly. He seemed to have recalled the person represented by this name, a strong individual on the 5 Seas, Vice Admiral Hurricane Keelingus, a Sequence 6 Storm Blessed. I remember him. He has some connection with a hidden organization and has indeed arrived in Backland recently to carry out a mission. Mr. Eyre, what kind of mission is this? Miss Justice Audrey asked curiously. You'll know when the time comes, Miss Justice. Mr. Eyre said with a smile. Anyway, what you'll encounter then will probably be a marionette. Tang had originally planned to just let Keelingus go to Backland, simply polluting him with the pollution of fate and being done with it. But who knew, Hermes actually told Keelingus some of his little secrets, and Keelingus discovered that there was a marionette around him. Then he couldn't be blamed. Hanging him up as a marionette was actually no big deal. As long as the script continued, everything would not be a problem, and everything would ultimately transform into the incorrect error. If it's a Sequence 6 Storm Blessed. At this moment, Mr. Strength, who had been silent from the beginning until now, spoke. His voice attracted the gazes of Miss Justice Audrey and Mr. Hanged Man Alger. They saw Mr. Strength calmly speak. I can deal with it. Do you want him alive or dead? Alive or dead? Mr. Hanged Man Alger choked, somewhat stumped by the question. His initial thought was to proceed slowly, as Keelingus's sealed artifact was not so easy to deal with. Even a demigod would need to find him before being able to kill him. After all, Keelingus could change his appearance. His sealed artifact. No problem. Mr. Strength said simply and directly, as long as it doesn't involve a demigod-level sealed artifact, there won't be a problem. Meaning, in the absence of a demigod or a sealed artifact of equivalent level protecting him, he can be killed, all of them can be killed. Mr. Hanged Man Alger blinked, speechless for a long time. Is this a demigod? To Miss Justice Audrey, such an existence, seemingly fearless of everything, was also the kind of power that she yearned for, possessed by the big figures in the mystical world. However, as someone who was only Sequence 9 herself, Miss Justice's eyes shifted slightly. She felt that she should perhaps also find an opportunity to advance to Mind Reader. Mr. Error, seated at the very top, lazily watched everything unfolding below. He couldn't help but silently sigh. Ah, what a peaceful and harmonious tarot club. Chapter 342, 341 Library. After the tarot club concluded, Hanged Man, Alger, Justice, Audrey, and Strength, Gale Bray, who tried to act respectfully towards Mr. Error, stood up and bowed. Then, crimson starlight engulfed the spirits of the Hanged Man and Justice, returning them to their original worlds. Mr. Fool sat at the head of the bronze long table, looking towards Mr. Strength, who had put on an act and did not return to the forsaken land of the gods with the burst of crimson starlight. Information, Mr. Strength said concisely. He was referring to the information about Hurricane General Keelan Jesse. As a marionette responsible for the East Continent, most information concerning the North and South Continent was not hidden from him, but he had never asked Tang or Nicola about it. Lack of information, sometimes, even for an angel, was a fatal weakness. Underestimating the opponent's strength, or hidden helpers behind them, the probability of failure, while not high, was certainly not zero. A battle-hardened warrior naturally wouldn't make such a low-level mistake. What a casual attitude. Not a shred of respect for an angel king. Mr. Error shook his head helplessly. He snapped his fingers, and a stack of documents landed on the bronze long table in front of Mr. Strength. Information, intelligence, possible obstacles, and issues from the church are all included. In Backland, with the approval of Protector William I, the first emperor of the Ruined Kingdom, the marionette and parasite had basically gained control of the situation there. Killing a palace Nigan was not difficult. Of course, this also involved some issues with the Twilight Hermit Society. Adam needed to lead the trend of the era to complete the visionary ritual. According to their previous cooperation agreement, both Mr. Error and Tang needed to slightly modify their scripts to ensure the trend of the era proceeded as pre-planned. Oh, right, and this. As if remembering something, Mr. Error snapped his fingers again. A Miskatonic University investigator's combat uniform appeared before Mr. Strength. Mr. Error smiled. Wear this. It will save you a lot of trouble. Mr. Strength picked up the documents and quickly flipped through them page by page. So, how do you plan to leave the East Continent? Directly switch using the Trickster's ability. Strength said without raising his head. As a marionette in the hands of a cryptic servant, using the Trickster's ability to swap the positions of marionettes, from the East Continent to the North Continent, exchanging with a marionette near Backland, was not a problem. Of course, there were also alternative options, passing through Euclidean space, or going through Dark Angel Saucier. However, neither of these was as convenient as the Trickster's ability. Mr. Error nodded understandingly, a very correct decision. He would handle the aftermath and provide necessary misleading and deception. But I didn't expect that the content of your transaction with Mr. Hanged Man would be such basic things: food, daily necessities, scattered materials, and some low-sequence potion main ingredients. Can't always bother you, can I? Mr. Strength raised his head and looked at Mr. Error, who was seated at the head of the bronze long table. True. Mr. Error shrugged. I just didn't expect an angel's labor to be so cheap. Strength, Gale Bray. He had a sense of déjà vu, like he was being CPU'd. Was it his imagination? Also, I need to remind you not to kill too many people, or I'll have trouble cleaning up. Kill too many people, or kill too many people. Killing people, or marionettes. Mr. Strength merely sneered at this. After finishing the documents and picking up the clothes, he left the mystic space above the gray mist. Mr. Error maintained his usual smile, his expression unchanged. He looked at Tang, who had only lazily appeared at the very end of the bronze long table after Strength left, still scribbling on a canvas, and asked, "Do you have any other new ideas for what's next?" Kill them. Those people are useless anyway. Let him deal with some of those guys too. After all, scum are better off dead. I won't bother with them. Tang held his paintbrush, casually twirling it several times in his hand, his smile also unchanged. Well, killing people, whether he did it or someone else did, there was no essential difference. During this tarot club of 13 members, Klein obtained Rosal the Great's diary from Miss Justice and Mr. Hanged Man, gaining some information about Miskatonic University and secretive matters. So, from mid-sequence to high sequence, specifically from sequence 5 to sequence 4, it's possible to change pathways. Neither the Night Watchers nor Tang mentioned this, probably because my security clearance isn't high enough. After all, he was just a sequence 8 clown, not even considered a mid-sequence Beander. Perhaps when he advanced to a high-sequence Beander, the Night Watchers and the Diviner Club would give him options. From Rosal the Great's diary, Klein learned about several pathways that could be interchanged. Among them was information on the Seer pathway and its adjacent pathways. The Diviner pathway could be exchanged with the Thief pathway and the Student pathway. These three pathways could be interchanged at high sequences, belonging to special, adjacent pathways. It was then that Klein vaguely realized why Miskatonic University controlled the Diviner and Thief pathways, and why the Abraham family had such close ties with Miskatonic University. These were adjacent pathways. Given the law of conservation of Beander characteristics, it was perfectly reasonable to collect the Beander characteristics and potion formulas of both the pathways they already controlled and their adjacent pathways. Perhaps, the pathways controlled by Miskatonic University include not only Diviner and Thief, but also Student. The next relatively important mysticism knowledge was the name of the Diviner pathway sequence 4 potion, called Trickster, known for its Gui Wei Kong Bu nature, which Klein had already learned when he fought against that foreign trickster. The Thief pathway's sequence 4 was called Parasite, which he also learned when he reported the issue to Leonard Mitchell of Miskatonic University. The Student pathway's sequence 4 was called Magician. In the advancement to high sequences, it also seemed to involve rituals required for advancement. But judging by the names of the potions, the demigods of these three pathways, well, at least at sequence 4, all seem to be like squishy mages who rely on ranged attacks. Of course, Klein, being merely a clown, couldn't comment further on this. After all, Rosal the Great's diary entries were limited. A large part of it was his complaints about Tingen City's snacks and designs, while frantically cramming for various chaotic subjects before exam week, a last-minute effort. In short, it felt like a college student's life, half dead. He hadn't expected Rosal the Great, after transmigrating, to experience the daily life of a college student creating miracles in a week, something he had only seen online at their age. How a high school student self-studies a dozen subjects in a week and successfully passes the exams, self-cultivation JPG. As Joe Mingrui, who had not worked for who knows how long but had at least attended university, wearing Klein's skin, Klein still felt a bit ashamed. Well, at least he already had a job and a stable income. Really wasn't that bad. After this, he also learned from Mr. Hanged Man, that Hurricane General Keelan Jesse had recently arrived in Backland, and it was unclear what this pirate general intended to do in Backland. Similarly, Klein made a promise that would not be exposed. If he had a Wan J in Backland, he might intervene in this matter. Regardless of whether he had a Wan J, he had to maintain his presence. After all, as Mr. Fool, it was crucial to maintain his mysterious and great image in front of 2 veteran Tarot Club members and 1 new Tarot Club member who immediately exposed his problems and made one sigh. Congratulations, it was another day without being exposed. Not long after the Tarot Club ended, Klein received the pass to the Miskatonic University library that Tang had mailed to him. The pass was small and exquisite. Besides the Miskatonic University emblem printed on the front, the back simply recorded the owner of this temporary pass. Because it's a temporary pass, it's only valid for 3 days. Along with the temporary pass, instructions on how to enter Miskatonic University were also sent. In front of any door in Tingan City, holding the pass, chant, Great Cthulhu, in ancient Hermes, giant language, dragon language, or other supernatural languages possessing mysticism power. The former was the ancient Hermes word corresponding to great in Ruan language, while the latter was a simple phonetic transcription. Klein read it twice and understood. The latter word was simply Cthulhu in Chinese, borrowing the sound from ancient Hermes. More like the style of our great food-loving empire. Klein still remembered that when he was learning English, he used Chinese characters for pronunciation because he couldn't understand phonetic symbols. People from other worlds who didn't understand Chinese wouldn't choose such a jumbled incantation that lacked any mystical symbolic meaning. It was like how Chinese Gate was initially called the Idiot Gate, full of mischievous humor. However, this world certainly lives up to the description of Cthulhu. Recalling the concepts of Beyonder characteristics, indestructibility and conservation, and the origins of sealed artifacts, or even things that could serve as main ingredients for potions, Klein couldn't help but sigh. Such chaotic underlying rules. The Night Watchers, building in Tingan City required extensive repairs due to Amon's counterattack. Both the ritual magic arrangements and other parts needed time to recover. Although done and the investigators had tried their best to minimize the impact, it still required some time for repairs. Fortunately, there were no casualties. Even Leonard, who had been parasitized by a parasite, would soon be discharged from St. Peter's Hospital after treatment. During this period, the administrative staff of the Night Watchers were temporarily on vacation, and Beyonders, except for those on daily duty, those stationed at the Idiot Gate, and the injured, could also move freely for a period. It was considered a short holiday that required rotating shifts, and yes, it was paid. Klein muttered, gripping the doorknob of his room. He held the admission pass in one hand, while silently chanting in ancient Hermes in his mind. Great Cthulhu. The door opened in response, but outside was not the living room of Klein's residence. This was a brand new world. An equally bright sun hung in the sky, indicating that there seemed to be no difference between here and the outside world. Klein walked out of his room door. The door slowly closed after he left. Klein looked back and found that the door connected to his room was the door of what appeared to be a classroom in a teaching building. Some kind of spatial connection. After the student pathway reached Sequence 5, Traveler, one could achieve long-distance teleportation using the spirit world. However, the time Klein spent from entering to exiting the door, from Tingan City to the Miskatonic University gate, was very short. The technique involved here might be related to the spirit world, but it must be some power stronger than a traveler. Not long after Klein walked out of the teaching building, he saw Tang walking towards him. I knew you'd be eager to come in after signing for the letter I sent. As for how he happened to come to pick him up at this time, well, he was a diviner, those who know, know. Let's go. This place isn't small. Do you want to stroll around here, or go somewhere else? Klein looked around and noticed that there were quite a few students here. Many were coming and going in a hurry. The ancient and imposing buildings around them exuded a long-standing charm, seemingly steeped in countless years of history. And what was most impressive was the Miskatonic University emblem. It was a symbol composed of an open book, wheat ears, flowers, stars, curves, planes, and various complex mystical symbols. This emblem appeared on the teaching buildings and on the chests of the hurried students. Let's go to the library first. Well, he was a little curious if there was a dog at the entrance of Miskatonic University that could bite demigods. All right, Tang readily agreed. Chapter 343, 342 Arodes. The buildings at Miskatonic University leaned more towards a European style. To be precise, the architectural style of the entire Tinghan city was more European. This had similarities to the overall architectural style of Ruin. Perhaps the senior transmigrator only made some modifications based on the Ruin style, laying the foundation for the current Tinghan city and Miskatonic University. Of course, Miskatonic is, after all, a Western concept, so a European style was to be expected. However, looking at the current situation, both Rosal the Great and the roughly confirmed error, Mr. Nicholas Flamel, who might be a transmigrator, should both be from his great food-loving empire. So, in such a European-leaning place, suddenly encountering a building with a strong Chinese style. After imagining that scene for a moment, Klein decided against it. He always felt it wouldn't be a good thing. After all, encountering drum towers or courtyards, combined with the crazy underlying colors of this world, and then adding in parasites or ghost mages, just by their names, the two sequences Miskatonic University mastered, especially at high sequence, gave off a strong sense of a ghost story. It definitely wouldn't be a good thing. Nobody wants to wake up to a pair of embroidered shoes at their door, hear the sound of a head banging against the wall next door, find a white ribbon at home, or look in the mirror and realize their reflection isn't looking down when they are. Amidst his swirling thoughts, Klein had already followed Tang, and the two walked towards the library. There were quite a few people here, not much different from Klein's impression of when his original body was still studying at Tinghan University. People came and went, but their daily topics of discussion were more inclined towards mysticism, not science. Miskatonic University, the happy home of investigators. This place not only produced legendary investigators but also lunatics. Klein didn't know much about Cthulhu myths. Before transmigrating, as an online expert, he knew a little about everything, but only a little. Although from the current situation, Miskatonic University should not be a bad place for him. But there was a problem. Rosal the Great had close ties with Miskatonic University in his early years. But in his later years, Rosal the Great died in White Maple Palace. Although historical records state that this matter had nothing to do with the Ruined Kingdom, many historians believe that Rosal the Great's opposition to the Eternal Blazing Sun Church and the God of Craftsmen Church stemmed primarily from his early academic experiences, but none of this has been confirmed. Klein had no way of knowing if Rosal the Great's death involved other factors. As a transmigrator who had transmigrated to another world and needed to be extra cautious, after having Rosal the Great's diary as a reference and personally seeing that Mr. Error, his thoughts had indeed wavered. But this period of history was unclear and vague, and Klein felt that being cautious was by no means a bad thing. No one paid attention to Tang and Klein. The two walked to a 4-story building with a large footprint. Looking at this building, which was also filled with the European style from before Klein's transmigration, Klein surveyed his surroundings. He didn't find any Miskatonic University dogs that could bite a second-generation god to death, but he did see a small, somewhat decayed wooden sign hanging outside this library. It was out of place in this area, making it easy to spot. Tang looked over. Oh, that seems to be something Mr. Error left behind. Because it's related to him, even if it rots, it's still kept there. It's said to be some riddles. But no one understands them, and we don't know what they mean. Riddles. After advancing to Clown, Klein's vision was also enhanced by the potion. He could naturally see the familiar characters, which were still clear despite the decay. Klein numbly read what was written on the wooden sign and almost couldn't hold back. Ha ha, ha ha. Dead memories suddenly began to attack him at this moment. Why are mermaids played by dark-skinned people? Because in the 16th century, the bottom of the sea was full of. Why is Japan a big producer of anime? Because in 1945, they had a second, original. Why are there no women among the four master and disciples in Journey to the West? Because where they went, were there Bengal monitor lizards? What kind of hellish jokes are these? Klein barely managed to keep his expression straight. Tang, beside him, turned sideways, his eyes subtly moving, and said with a smile. You don't understand, do you? I heard that Rosal the Great back then could understand these characters. The things Mr. Error wrote seem to have some connection with the strange characters Rosal the Great used. Because they both used Chinese. Miskatonic obviously had a deeper connection with Rosal the Great. Among the items lost in the Tingen University restricted section before, there was Rosal the Great's diary. It was clearly reasonable for Miskatonic to have more of Rosal the Great's diaries. If Mr. Error was the one who wrote these signs, then without a doubt, he must have a close connection with the transmigrator. Although he couldn't be 100% sure the other party was a transmigrator. Klein told himself to calm down. He used his clown ability to quickly compose himself and adjust his facial expression. He met Tang's smile. Although the smile was exactly the same as before, Klein detected a hint of strangeness. That strangeness was like a flash of inspiration. Klein couldn't grasp the source of that strangeness, but he did become nervous. He couldn't expose himself, or rather, at least not now. Who was good and who was bad was not yet certain. No one knew whether Miskatonic and Rosal the Great were good or bad. Everything was just Klein's own speculation. Before reaching a certain level, many things are not fully seen, and exposing oneself is the stupidest thing to do. As a higher sequence of the seer pathway, Klein was unsure if his expression, adjusted through clown, had fooled the other party. Moreover, this was a friend who knew his original body quite well. A slight cold sweat seeped from his back. He had been careless, not expecting to encounter such a thing here. But Klein still managed to calm himself down, drawing on his experience of role-playing. Fool. Is that so? A test? Or something else? Klein couldn't see through this point. He followed Tang's footsteps into the library. The two didn't continue the conversation on that topic. Miskatonic's library had a similar layout to Tingen University's library. Tang picked up a small booklet from beside the entrance and handed it to Klein. I have some other matters to attend to. The rules for Miskatonic's library are here. Except for the 4th floor, which is strictly forbidden and is the restricted book area, you can look around anywhere else. The collection here is quite extensive, involving many ritual spells, charms, and mysticism potion-related items. If you're lucky, you might even find a potion formula or something. There are even potion formulas here. Klein maintained his expression, not revealing the unease in his heart. Some seniors copied them down. Perhaps there are some, but I don't know which book they might be tucked into. If you're lucky, you might find one. Tang's tone hadn't changed from before, seemingly having truly not noticed Klein's earlier abnormality. Seeing Klein accept the library rules, he nodded, then paused just as he was about to leave, turning his head. Oh, by the way, Klein, if you want to ask any questions, there's a magic mirror on the 2nd floor that can answer questions. You should be able to see it when you go up. They say it's very effective, but using it, it's hard to describe. Magic mirror. Klein watched Tang's retreating figure, pondering for a moment, and decided to go to the 2nd floor first. He needed to look for information on Amon and also learn some practical ritual magic and mysticism knowledge to expand his knowledge base. The former was a side task, the latter two were the main focus. After all, the parasite named Amon, attached to Leonard Mitchell had told him many strange things. Klein felt that among these words, there might be something he needed. Klein lowered his head. After flipping through the library rules in his hand, he went up to the 2nd floor of the library. However, to his surprise, in a corner of the 2nd floor where books weren't piled up, there were quite a few people gathered. Occasionally, he would see Miskatonic University students with messy, lightning-struck, new style, hair rushing downstairs. Strange hairstyles. Klein walked towards that direction. People, after all, are naturally gossipy creatures. Silence was forbidden in the library. Those people gathered together made no sound. Klein felt curious. As he got closer, he heard the loud laughter of those who hadn't dispersed yet. Fool, asking for an answer and still not understanding, how can you directly ask for the answers to the exam questions? If it doesn't strike you, who will it strike? One of the most boisterous laughers shouted towards a certain direction, his arrogant voice coming from the center of the circle. If you ask me, I'll do it, esteemed Arodes. My question is, in this exam's multiple choice questions, which option appears the most? If you can't get the answer, can't you just guess? Crack. A bolt of lightning flashed through the air, and the head of the most arrogant student instantly became identical to those students who had rushed downstairs earlier. The other students burst into laughter. Looks like you're no good either. Every year, there are people who overestimate themselves, wanting to get answers from here. How could the magic mirror, which could answer all questions, be placed so openly here and allow them to exploit such loopholes? Before the student, who was spitting out black smoke, could speak, the surface of the ancient magic mirror instantly showed a word flowing like blood. According to the principle of equivalence, it's my turn to ask a question. No, wait, no one else got one. The magic mirror Arodes completely ignored the students shouting. Word after word appeared consecutively. When you were 14, did you still wet your pants? That student. He let out a wail. Before he could answer, another bolt of lightning struck down from midair. The student ran off. Klein's gaze pierced through the crowd, and only then did he see that the source of the lightning was indeed, as Tang had said, an ancient-looking magic mirror, clearly very old, placed squarely on a table. Seeing that there were too many people there, Klein could only give up on using this magic mirror. He returned to the first floor, planning to use the catalog to look for historical information involving Amon. Just as Klein was carefully searching the catalog, words suddenly appeared one after another on the glass window beside him, which offered a view of the outside. Klein's spiritual intuition stirred. He looked at the prominent words beside him. Esteemed, great master, your humble, lowly servant Arodes has finally found you. A string of words left Klein somewhat bewildered. He subconsciously scanned his surroundings, wondering if he had been possessed by something unclean. No, don't look at others like that, master. You will be discovered by the dogs here. The blood-red words quickly vanished. Before Klein could react, new words appeared again. Error, left Tingen City, and you just happened to enter here, so your humble, pitiful, lowly servant dared to contact you. Magic Mirror Arodes. Klein remembered the students earlier calling it that. Yes, great master. I am honored that you remember my name. Klein. How to put it, he kind of wanted to call the police. He felt like he really had, indeed, encountered something unclean. Why did this thing suddenly cling to him like some divine artifact recognizing its master in a cheesy, third-rate novel? No, wait. Klein froze, realizing something. This thing, it noticed something unusual about me. Klein asked himself what he had shown. Besides enhanced spirituality and divination, nothing else stood out. And besides these things, there was only the mysterious space above the gray mist, and his identity as a transmigrator. It was obvious that as a transmigrator, he shouldn't be able to make this magic mirror, which had existed for who knows how long, use such almost fawning language. Then there was only one possibility left. Klein's gaze deepened slightly. He didn't know if this was the second test, nor did he know if he had already been exposed. No, after the main body of error left Tingen City, you are still safe, my great master. The crimson words, as if dripping blood, wrote this. The magic mirror Arodes seemed to read Klein's inner thoughts. The floating words were wiped away once more, and a new line of words appeared again. You must be careful. Error, and open black lens bracket Z's asterisk at, and close black lens bracket. As if subjected to some powerful interference, the string of words following, error, suddenly turned blank. Klein. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.